Chapter 584. I'm begging you, alright? Go back to the 5 capitals or the Shun training camp. Do whatever you need to do. We'll be the same person and you'll be the same person soon enough. Chen Guang had no choice but to follow Wu Tong outside. He stopped and turned to speak to her in a serious tone. It's such a big deal. Wu Tong was stubborn. You saw it too. No matter how big the deal is, I'm still unscathed. I beat up Xianxia, but didn't I just swagger out like that? Look, if they really wanted to catch me, wouldn't they have done it long ago since we're already walking leisurely to the door? Anyway, things are more complicated than you think, but also simpler than you think. If you think it's a big deal, then it's a big deal. If you think it's a small deal, then it doesn't matter. This isn't your responsibility anyway. To put it bluntly, you don't have the right to get involved. As Chen Guang spoke, he grabbed Wu Tong's shoulders with both hands. It's not that I'm at odds with you, but if you really get involved, not only will you not be able to do anything, you'll only make things difficult for me. Don't make things difficult for me, alright? Under normal circumstances, Wu Tong was a very stubborn person. She was the same this time. She thought that Chen Guang would relent and give in. However, after so long, Chen Guang still had the same attitude. He was very serious and showed no signs of relenting. This younger brother was no longer like a younger brother. That was what Wu Tong thought. You really can't? She asked. Chen Guang nodded heavily. Then be careful alone. What do you plan to do? Zhang asked. Chen Guang blinked. I don't plan to do anything. Didn't Xianxia say that Poison Sect and Dark Sect want me to behave? Then I'll behave. Don't worry, I'm not stupid enough to court death. I won't do anything, and that's exactly what they want. Really? Of course. I'm so weak now. It's useless no matter how high I jump on my own. Don't be fooled by my angry look just now. In fact, I've already made it very clear to Xianxia. As long as I'm willing to cooperate, they won't do anything to me. Beating him up was just because she really didn't like him and wanted to satisfy her craving. Here, I promise you that I won't do anything stupid, okay? Now that Chen Guang had world-class acting skills, he had to pretend to be carefree and nonchalant. He didn't want to be too realistic and shake Wu Tong. Alright, I'll listen to you this time. Wu Tong's eyes were filled with tears as she turned around and retreated. Just listen to me. Be a good girl. Chen Guang blinked. He had known Wu Tong for a long time, but this was the first time he had said that to her. Thinking about it, it really wasn't easy, but this time, Chen Guang was determined. No matter how stubborn she was, he didn't intend to give in. Chen Guang originally thought that Old Man Tan and Secretary Chu would quietly follow him to chat, but there was no movement until he got on the plane back to Wujing. He was a little disappointed. The so-called do nothing was just an act for Xianxia and his master to see. In fact, he wanted to uproot Xianxia and his master more than anyone else. But he didn't think that Chu Xiaowei and Old Man Tan would actually swallow Xianxia's arrogant and smug look on the spot. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes and personally participated in it, Chen Guang wouldn't have believed that in this technologically advanced modern society, there really existed such a privileged class that was completely above ordinary people's heads. Something like inner force could allow some people to have ultimate skills, just like Wenwen's tyrannical strength. But not every inner force martial artist was as strong as Wenwen. Chen Guang thought of Old Man Jin and Old Man Jiang that he had met before. Sitting on the plane, he clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth in hatred. Are you guys really that afraid of death? Sitting in such a position and indulging Xianxia and inner force martial artists like this? How can you live up to your names and the seats under your butts? Getting off the plane with a sullen face, he was about to call his family when his phone inexplicably rang, indicating that the other party's phone was turned off. Chen Guang's heart skipped a beat. He had briefly contacted his family before getting on the plane, and everything was fine. Why did the phone suddenly not go through? In the past, his father had developed the habit of never turning off his phone when he was doing business, and he still hadn't changed it. Even if his phone ran out of battery, he always had a portable power source on him. It was impossible for his phone to be turned off just like that. Could it be that something happened? Let's get someone else to try and see. When he called his mother, her phone was also turned off. Uncle, aunt, uncle. None of his more than 20 relatives and family members in Lelai's hometown could get through. An inexplicable sense of fear suddenly emerged in Qin Guang's heart. He had never felt so panicked before. Did he make a mistake again? This time, he had dragged his parents and family down with him? Holding onto the glass door of the airport exit, he felt that all the strength in his body had been drained. Looking up at the afternoon sky outside, it was supposed to be sunny, but he felt that the entire sky was gloomy. He clutched his backpack tightly holding onto the heavenly holy grail inside. An inexplicable murderous intent rose in his chest like a flame, and he gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Poison Clan. Dark Clan. If you really dare to touch a single hair on my family, I will make sure that your entire clan is annihilated, and not even the fowls and dogs will be spared. Gritting his teeth, he thought to himself. The airport security personnel next to him noticed that he was behaving strangely. They approached him and asked anxiously, "Young man, what's the matter?" Not long ago, there was a major incident at Xianxia Airport in Wujing. In the past 2 months, the security of the entire airport had been raised to a whole new level. Chen Guang got up slowly. Nothing. The airport security personnel found it strange. He even shook his head, thinking that he was hallucinating. Why did it seem that the area around this young man was colder than other places? Even the sunlight seemed to have dimmed on him. At this moment, a young man in a suit walked over and called out suspiciously, "Little Guang?" Chen Guang looked up in surprise. "Brother?" That's right, this young man in a suit was Chen Guang's eldest cousin, Feng Yong. He was a small civil servant working in the finance department in the outskirts of Wujing. Chen Guang moved forward agitatedly and hugged Feng Yong's shoulder. At the same time, he looked around vigilantly. Now that the situation was urgent, he had to protect as many people as he could. "Brother, hurry up and leave with me. We can't stay here for long." Feng Yong struggled out of his grasp in bewilderment. "What? Little Guang, what's wrong with you?" Chen Guang lowered his voice. "I can't explain it to you clearly, but didn't you notice that we can't get through to Uncle and Aunt's phones? We can't get through to my parents' phones either. Let's go to a safe place first." Feng Yong was even more confused. "Isn't that obvious? I just sent them all on the plane, and the plane is probably about to take off. Of course we can't get through to them." "What's going on?" Chen Guang was dumbfounded. Feng Yong saw that he was completely clueless and said in realization, "Well, you still don't know, right? I got a big shock this afternoon too. They were a bunch of old men and women. I don't know what went wrong in their brains, but they said they wanted to go on a trip just like that. Early this morning, they chartered a car from their hometown and came to Wujing. They even bought the plane tickets. If it wasn't for the fact that the car they chartered was driven by my classmate, I would have almost been fooled. It was a lot of trouble." More than 20 people and their whole family came? A big question mark popped up in Chen Guang's mind. Feng Yong nodded. "If it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't leave the office, I would have walked right into their trap and been dragged away by them. Take a look at your WeChat. Your dad must have told you." Chen Guang took out his WeChat and saw a long voice message from Qin Guoli. When Chen Guang heard that, he roughly understood what was going on. Because of the family's bankruptcy, coupled with his mother's illness, the whole family had been poor for the past 2 years. Recently, seeing that they had become rich, his father, who never took the normal path, began to be restless again. He thought about it all day long. People always have all kinds of opportunities and coincidences in their lives. Who knows when they'll grow old and they'll be gone in the blink of an eye. Now that his family was not short of money, and he had nothing to do, if he didn't go out while he was still healthy, when he got old, or if he suddenly disappeared, he wouldn't be able to go out even if he wanted to. Wouldn't it be a waste of his life? Thus, his father simply took out the nearly 1 million yuan bonus that Zhu Jifa's printing factory had sent over a few days ago and brought his entire family on this willful and unscrupulous trip. Their initial goal was to tour 10 countries in Europe. They wouldn't come back until they had a good time. Third aunt had studied in Europe when she was young, so she had no problem with the language. She also knew the local geography, so there was no need for a tour guide. As for why he hid it from Qin Guang, According to Chenguoli, it was because he saw how busy he was now, participating in the darts competition and playing the piano. He reckoned that he would have to deal with his sugar daddy, Jiang Yage, in Beijing. As a father, he didn't want to trouble him, so that he wouldn't have to worry. Actually, Chen Guang knew that Chenguoli was afraid that he would make them unhappy if he followed them. He looked at Feng Yong. This is really, Feng Yong rolled his eyes. Speechless, right? I was also having a headache. You don't know how crowded it was at the airport. My dad. This uncle of mine. The two cousins were inexplicably distressed by Chenguoli's unorthodox way of doing things. However, Chen Guang was relieved that it was not the Poison Clan or the Dark Clan who did it. It was good that they left. The 10 countries in Europe were a squandering trip with a budget of 50,000 yuan per person. It would probably take at least a month for them to come back. That way, he wouldn't have to be on tenterhooks all the time. Chen Guoli and the rest were completely traveling on their own. According to his unreliable dad, they had no goals, no organization, and no discipline on this trip. Even though it was called 10 countries, it might not be enough. Anyway, they arrived at the destination first and went wherever they wanted. However, in Yanjing, there was a different kind of tense atmosphere. Ordinary people couldn't detect any changes, but somewhere in the dark, there was an extremely solemn atmosphere. I was the one who recommended Ouyang Tianxing. I apologize to all of you here. I, Yi Junming, will take full responsibility for this. Alright, old Yi, don't say too much. We didn't expect things to turn out this way. It's not just your problem, everyone is responsible. Old man Jean pinched his fingers and muttered, although you were the one who recommended him back then, all of us voted for him to be the candidate as well. Other than Ouyang Tianxing, we didn't have a better candidate. At that particular time, only someone like him, who could handle both sides, could be a good liaison officer. He was also the director of the Special Affairs Bureau. Another old man said, our original intention was for him to restrain the inner force martial artists. He did a good job on the surface. Although our cooperation with the inner force martial artists had been progressing slowly all these years, there had never been any conflicts. That was why we were all deceived. We didn't expect him to use his power to build up his influence over the past 10 or 20 years. Although he was supposed to be a liaison officer, he was actually helping the inner force martial artists clean up the mess they made in the secular world. He even used the privilege we gave him to do it flawlessly. Now that it has become this chaotic situation, all of us are to blame. That's right. If it wasn't for Qin Guang's incident that exposed his secret, we would still be deceived. Thinking about it, it gives me goosebumps. The hot-tempered old man Jiang slammed the table. I don't think we should waste time talking to them. We tolerated them in the past because we were troubled by both internal and external threats and had yet to gain a firm foothold. Now, the country is at peace, and our guns are many times stronger than before. Our weapons are many times more advanced. Why should we be afraid of them? No matter what you think, I, old man Jiang, will not take the blame for this. Otherwise, when I die of old age and enter the coffin, my descendants may criticize me. Look, it's these people who nurtured a tiger and allowed the inner force martial artists to do evil. Anyway, I'm already half a foot in the coffin. If I die, so be it. We turned a blind eye and tolerated them for almost 20 years. Now that they've taken advantage of us, I won't tolerate it anymore. That's right. Let's do it. Yi Junming stood up abruptly. He was the most emotional. I, old Yi, have made the most mistakes. Why don't you let me do it? What era are we living in? This is the era of information and high technology. Although we're old, our soldiers are still young. If they want to turn themselves into a cancer, I, old Yi, am willing to lead the soldiers to remove this cancer. At that moment, the old man in the middle who had been silent coughed softly. Everyone calm down. I'll get little Chu to contact Ouyang Tianxing and see what he has to say. The old man gently pressed a button, and the projector at the back of the conference room lit up. A figure wearing a black robe and a cloak appeared on the screen, making it hard for people to see his face clearly. Greetings, sir. Old man Jiang slammed the table again. You still have the cheek to call us, sir? Old Jiang, be quiet. The old man in the middle shouted. From his old body, an aura that no one dared to disobey gushed out. Old man Jiang sat down slowly, but Ouyang Tianxing did not move in the projection. Ouyang Tianxing, speak. What do you want? The old man in the middle said slowly. Ouyang Tianxing gently shook the cloak on his head and said, I, Ouyang Tianxing, sincerely apologize to Comrade Tsing Yongtai and Comrade Xia Ruahai of the Great Chuan Province's southwest branch for practicing favoritism and committing fraud in their work. The Special Affairs Bureau has no intention of jumping out of the system and becoming an inner force martial artist's lackey. Our loyalty to the country and to the chiefs has never changed. It's just that in the past, there have been cases of deceiving people like Tsing Yongtai and Xia Ruahai. Ouyang Tianxing said that. On the surface, he was expressing his loyalty, but none of the old men believed him. They had heard similar words for many years, but it still ended up like this. Just get straight to the point. The Special Affairs Bureau's affairs can only be handled in a special way. We don't have any other think tanks to refer to. Basically, only the people on the table can make the final decision, the old man in the middle said directly. Ouyang Tianxing grunted. To answer to the chiefs, I've executed Tsing Yongtai and Xia Ruahai internally. After he said that, he paused for a few seconds to give the old men time to digest the news. I only have one goal in doing this, and that is to completely prevent similar situations from happening again. At the same time, I hope to elevate the National Special Affairs Bureau to a ministerial level. It's because of the current administrative level of my unit that the resources that can be allocated are limited by many factors. That's why there has been no progress in communicating with the inner force martial artists. At the same time, it's very easy for the leaders of the various branches to covet benefits and be bribed by the inner force martial artists. When Tsing Yongtai jumped out to help Ouyang Tianxing expose this matter, he was basically destined to die. It was funny that he thought he was being put in an important position, but he did not know that he was being abandoned. The old man in the middle was not surprised when he heard the news of Tsing Yongtai and Xia Ruoyun's deaths. Things were different now. Although Ouyang Tianxing had been planning for many years, he did not dare to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Wuxia military and fight for real. He wanted to get rid of Tsing Yongtai, the incompetent fool, for a long time. This was just an excuse, and he could also show his cards to the old men. He felt that it was time for him to take another step forward. With the scope of the Special Affairs Bureau's authority, once the entire department was promoted to a ministerial level, his identity and status would be close to that of a deputy state. He would wait a few more years, endure until those who should die were dead, and those who should retreat had retreated. When that time came, he would naturally be able to ascend to the throne, and that would be more comfortable than anything else. In this world, no matter how good one's martial arts was, one only had 100 years of life. Rather than muddling along like a fly, it was better to make a big splash. Ouyang Tianxing felt that he had the right time, the right place, and the right people. If he did not take the gamble, he would be letting down his years of hiding in the shadows and living like a snake. Now, it was time for him to step forward and transform into a dragon. In the large meeting room, after Ouyang Tianxing voiced his wish, there was an inexplicable silence. Everyone knew that Ouyang Tianxing was just putting on a show. He had dared to execute Tsing Yongtai and Xia Ruoyun in private without the slightest scruple. It could be considered as a proof of his loyalty, but it was also a clear message to everyone that the entire Special Affairs Bureau was like an iron bucket in his hands. If you don't let me advance, I'll make it worse. However, if he really did as he wished, it would mean that he had officially entered the throne room with the help of an inner force martial artist, which would become a hidden danger in the future. Governing a country was like cooking a small fish, and one could never escape the ways of the world. The so-called important matters were also decided time and time again on such a small table. Ouyang Tianxing had placed all the old men on the bonfire, unable to advance or retreat. All right, we understand what you're trying to say, but we can't make a decision on such short notice. Let's think about it a bit more before we make a decision. The old man in the middle used the delaying tactic. Ouyang Tianxing had achieved his goal today, so he did not dare to be overbearing. He responded and cut off the communication. The meeting room was silent again. Everyone looked at the old man in the middle. In the past 20 to 30 years, although the rulers of this country had changed one after another, the important decisions that truly concerned the survival of the country were all made by this old man's mind. After a long time, his murky gaze became brighter. He slowly stood up. Everyone held their breaths in silence. Every word he said next was as heavy as 1,000 caddies. A malignant tumor must be removed. The first sentence set the tone. Chaos can be within their boundaries, but they must not harm the people. The second sentence made his stance clear. I, Old Lin, am not afraid of death. Are you all not afraid of death? The breathing of many old men in their 60s gradually became heavy. 20 years ago, we were weak because we had no choice. Now, we have the world's most advanced missiles, the best tanks, and millions of soldiers. You're just a few martial artists, and you want to step on all of us and act like tyrants? They aren't as united as a piece of iron. From now on, start Operation Tianguang. Rope in all the martial artists that can be roped in, and remove all tumors that need to be removed. We, this group of old fellows, will bring them to the coffin with us. We'll die sooner or later, and when we've lived enough, we can die at any time. I want to see who dares to come to my bed and put a dagger on it. This was a declaration. Within 2 weeks, we will hold a military exercise with individual combat weapons. It will be kept secret internationally, but open internally. We will specially invite inner force martial artists to come and observe. Get Ouyang Tianxing to deliver the invitation. We will set up a new department at the ministerial level and gradually eliminate the Special Affairs Bureau. This was a swift and decisive strategy. According to reliable sources, the internal force martial artists are also undergoing changes. One of the 3 traditional aristocratic families, the Wen family, has just experienced a change. The eldest daughter of the Wen family, Wen, has become one of the most powerful people in the world. She has already declared war on the Poison Sect and Dark Sect, which are suspected to be the closest to Ouyang Tianxing. The Wen family has always been a scholarly family. They cultivate knowledge, practice the way of health, and appreciate the nature of a saint. Our strategy is to rope in the Wen family, and if necessary, to help them eliminate the Poison Sect and Dark Sect. Other than that, the person in charge of this new department should be someone close to the Wen family. Chen Guang is the best candidate. Chen Guang had underestimated this group of old men. They would either not do it, or they would do it to the end. That night, when he was lying alone on the bed in Zhuo Jingxi's house, Xen Qin used the key. She already had to push open the door and pull Chen Guang out of bed in his underwear. What are you doing? Are you trying to be a hooligan? A little Lolita raiding a pervert's bed at night was too much for him to handle. Xen Qin threw a top-secret document in front of him. Take this. Didn't you want to flip the table? Now that you're sleepy, someone's here to bring you a pillow. Chen Guang took the document and looked at it. The first page was written in meticulous handwriting. The strokes were domineering and full of murderous intent. One look and he could tell that it was the handwriting of someone who had been in a high position for a long time. Since the victory of the War of Resistance and the founding of the nation, we, the younger generation, have inherited the legacy of our martyrs and worked together to make the country prosperous and the people strong. 20 years ago, when we were facing internal and external troubles, we were coerced by the martial artists. We were afraid of death and reaped the bitter fruits of our own actions, becoming a sinner. Now, 20 years have passed. We have been treading on thin ice, trembling with fear. Finally, we have achieved something. The martial artists want to stir up trouble and stir up the society. Today, if we give in again, we will not have the face to meet the heroic martyrs in the underworld. We will fight to the death with our half-crippled bodies. We do not seek longevity, but we seek a clear conscience. This opening clearly told Chen Guang the anger and murderous intent that these old men had been suppressing for a long time. Chen Guang laughed. You didn't disappoint me after all. Tianguang plan? Good, very good. Individual military exercises? This is interesting. No one has reported on our country's individual combat weapons in the forum. I've never seen it. Establishing a new department to replace the Special Affairs Bureau? That's not a bad idea. The special department that could nurture a scumbag like Tsing Yongtai should have been kicked off a long time ago. Chen Guang read on and was secretly pleased. As the eldest disciple of the Thousand Extremities sect, Xin Qin had obviously joined the so-called Tianguang plan. She had sent this top-secret document to him overnight, which meant that she was also a part of the Tianguang plan. Now that he was destined to be enemies with the Poison sect and the Dark sect, how could he not be happy that he had found such a powerful backer? Moreover, this Tianguang plan was obviously named after the old man. That was why he was so thick-skinned. The old man's original intention was to push aside the dark clouds to reveal the bright moon, but he had shamelessly used it to his advantage. Wait, the name of this new department. Chen Guang pointed at the 4 words written on the black and white paper on the document with some difficulty. Xin Qin had asked the others the same question before. She rolled her eyes and explained, "What they mean is that we shouldn't make too much noise at the beginning. They're going to gradually shut down the Special Affairs Bureau. It's not like they're going to cut them off all at once. That's why they deliberately came up with this name to hide it." Chen Guang broke out in a cold sweat. It's a department-level department after all. Even if it's for the sake of concealment, they can't do this. Isn't this 2F** King shameful? For the sake of concealment, they don't even care about their reputation? Who would be so unlucky as to be this swollen chrysanthemum leader? But fixed. Total. Bureau. I heard that old man Lin went back and asked his grandson. His grandson said that you would definitely like this name, so it was decided. That's none of my business. Chen Guang spread his hands and continued reading. A few seconds later, his face turned ashen. The first swollen chrysanthemum leader is me, the old man? Xianxia nodded. Yes. Even the temporary name of the department was tailor-made according to your preferences. This is really F** ket up. Xianxia sighed. I thought so too. What the F** ck? Why are you messing around with me? Woof woof woof. I'm the deputy swollen chrysanthemum leader. Xianxia was a pure little girl, but when she said this, her jade-white face blushed under the moonlight. She was a little embarrassed. Chapter 585. Chen Guang was silent for a long time. He looked at the pitiful Xianxia and said, "It must have been hard on you." Xianxia sighed. "It's okay. I have to change the name sooner or later. Oh yes, I am almost done with the National Middle School Darts League. When will you have time to see those young players? They are all admiring you now." Chen Guang was non-committal. "I am not in a hurry. I will think about other things after I get past the current obstacle." The current obstacle? Xianxia thought he was going to announce the first National Chrysanthemum Commissioner. She tidied her clothes and saluted. "Chrysanthemum Commissioner Chen Guang. Please give the order." Goosebumps rose all over Chen Guang's body as he continued, "Just take a break. Please don't mention anything about your bad luck. Why don't you just call me by my name or call me Big Brother Chen Guang like in the past? Aren't you going to give the order? We are working hours now. Don't you care about the title?" Xianxia scratched her head in confusion. Chen Guang was even more confused than her. "Give the order? Yes. They say that a new official must make a clean sweep. Aren't you going to do something?" Xianxia asked curiously. Chen Guang shrugged. "I am in the dark now. Apart from you, the deputy bureau chief, I am a commander without an army. What can I do? Besides, even if there is any arrangement, it will not be made by us. I am not Superman. I am not born with knowledge. Suddenly, I am given such a strange position. Can I just rush out and command the army? Can I just sweep away flowing venom? Isn't this nonsense? We can't even protect ourselves now. The old men above us came up with such a ridiculous name. In fact, they are hinting to us not to act rashly and not to alert the enemy. Let's just do what we have to do and wait for their arrangements. I reckon that things will only become interesting after they're done with their individual military exercises." Xianxia tilted her head. "That means I have nothing to do now? I just told them about the Darts League. Isn't this tormenting them?" Chen Guang rolled his eyes. "If you really want to find trouble, it's not like there aren't any. It was said that Lolis had 3 good points. Their bodies were delicate and soft, and they were easy to push down. It was the middle of the night, and he was only wearing a pair of CK underwear. Xianxia was such a cute little loli standing in front of him. If he didn't have some dirty thoughts, Chen Guang would be letting down his conscience. What is it? Xianxia didn't know what Chen Guang was up to. Chen Guang pointed at his blanket. I'm now ordering you as the chrysanthemum head. My deputy bureau chief, hurry up and help me warm my bed. In the end, his very reasonable request ended with 2 more dark circles under his eyes, turning him into a national treasure. Chen Guang rubbed his eyes in pain. This was too much. Wasn't it just warming the bed? Was there a need to make such a big fuss? Xianxia ran to the next room to sleep. She was afraid that if she stayed any longer, she would accidentally throw a storm dart and poke holes all over Chen Guang's body. In the end, Chen Guang still couldn't sleep well. Not long after he laid down, he received a call from Wang in the middle of the night. I heard about what happened in Yanjing. What are you doing? Didn't I tell you not to get involved in it? Aren't you going to make trouble for me? What about the chrysanthemum head? Wenwen's tone sounded a little impatient. She didn't seem very happy. Chen Guang couldn't do anything about it. Didn't I suddenly force someone to do something beyond my abilities? He briefly told Wenwen what had happened. He heard that before the 2 of them met, Chen Guang had investigated a family involved in the hot pot poisoning case in Beijing. Later on, 25 lives were implicated. Then, it was said that the people from the Special Affairs Bureau seemed to have received benefits from the poison sect and the dark sect. They wanted him to behave, so they deliberately tormented him to draw the backlash from the elders, which led to the current situation. Wenwen didn't blame him. Chen Guang hadn't done anything wrong to begin with. He had been forced to do things step by step. Wenwen sighed. Actually, I know that with your bad temper, you might not listen even if I told you. But I really hope that you won't interfere anymore. They made you the chrysanthemum head because of your dart skills, but it also has something to do with me, the Wen family's head. Just settle down and practice the painting scroll that I gave you. Be obedient, okay? The sky won't fall. You don't know how powerful I am now. Ever since I broke through to the Wenzhong realm, I don't know what happened to me. My skills are improving by leaps and bounds. Meditating for a day is equivalent to 10 days for others. I'm not bragging, but it won't be long before I say that I'm the 2nd best in the world. Chen Guang spat. He thought that Wenwen was bragging. Keep bragging. The Australians can't even eat beef anymore. I'm not joking. I'm serious. Wenwen was angry. Why didn't this guy believe her? Yes. My Wenwen's martial arts are unparalleled. Once she shows her skills, everyone will retreat. Are you satisfied now? Chen Guang was speechless. That day, she almost died under a gun. They hadn't seen each other for a few days. How did she become so thick-skinned over the phone? The world was so big. There were countless people with special abilities. Who would say that they were #1 in the world? Did they think that people in ancient times played sword duel? Hey, who's your family? Don't quibble. Your stomach is going to grow big soon, right? Chen Guang suddenly changed the topic. Get bigger, my ass. It didn't even go in. Cough cough, scram. Wenwen roared fiercely. Anyway, I knocked you out and left. What happened? Nothing. You used a bit of strength to knock me out. The bed collapsed from the impact. Can't the quality of the broken bed be bad? Can't my skills be too strong? I'm not going to argue with you. I'm busy. Anyway, listen to me. No matter what you say, don't get into a head-on conflict with them. After I suppress everyone, I'll marry you personally. Now, you better behave yourself. Otherwise, I'll send someone to tie you up and lock you in my family's dungeon. Let's see how you're going to make a fuss then. I'm serious. Don't cause any more trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me for putting you under house arrest. After Wenwen finished speaking, she hung up the phone. Clan leader, the people from Poison Clan are here. They're waiting in the hall. An old servant bowed at the door. Wenwen suddenly stood up and unconsciously released her chi, causing many of the furnishings in the room to make a clanking sound. She really wasn't bragging to Chen Guang. Ever since that day, her body seemed to have a cheat code. The inner force that had turned into 7 stars spiraled in her dantian every day, driving the inner force to circulate throughout her body. It was as if she was cultivating while walking, cultivating while eating, and even when she was asleep, the efficiency of her cultivation was even higher. It was even more so when she was meditating and cultivating. It might be an exaggeration to say that she could travel 1,000 miles in a day, but she could travel 10 miles in a day. Now that she was getting stronger, she would look for the people from Poison Clan and Dark Clan whenever she had the chance. She was even more antagonistic towards the people from Poison Clan. Now that the people from Poison Clan could no longer sit still, they sent a messenger overnight, seemingly intending to negotiate. 10 minutes later, Wen held a long saber in her hand. She raised her hand and slashed down. The fake mountain around the pond 7 to 8 meters in front of her was sliced off with a flash of the saber. She shouted coldly at the Poison Clan messenger in front of her, "Don't play dumb. The poison in my father's body was administered by the people from Poison Clan. Now you're telling me that there's no antidote? Are you trying to make me laugh?" The Poison Sect's envoy, who was wrapped in black robes, trembled under the might of Wen's saber. He said with a trembling voice, "Wen family's clan head, please calm down. Our Poison Sect has been wrongly accused. It's all a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding? I can't be bothered to argue with you. In any case, don't let me find your headquarters. Otherwise, I'll go to your headquarters to make a misunderstanding. Wen pressed on. How about this? Although the poison in Old Master Wen's body wasn't inflicted by our Poison Clan, our sect is indeed quite knowledgeable in the use of poison. We're willing to help you develop the antidote with all our might. If the antidote doesn't work, our Poison Clan sect master will personally pay a visit to apologize. This is a letter that my sect master has entrusted me with. Please take a look, Clan Master Wen. The black-robed man took out a letter from his sleeve and handed it to Wen. Wen used the tip of her saber to pick up the letter. The blade sliced through the air, easily shredding the outer cover of the letter into pieces. However, the letter inside was not damaged at all. She then used the tip of her saber to pick up the letter. She glanced at it through the corner of her eyes and said, "All right, Scram, I'll give your Poison Clan a month's time. If you still can't get the antidote by then, don't blame me for uprooting Poison Clan." The black-robed man bowed and left. The old servant of the Wen family, however, asked worriedly, "Clan Master, aren't we being a little too forceful?" Wen waved her hand nonchalantly. The matter has already been proven to be done by them. Both parties have a blood feud, so I won't be going overboard no matter how forceful I am. I just don't know what they're planning by stalling for time with me. However, there's no harm in doing so. Hurry up and investigate. They can drag it on and we'll investigate ours. Once we find anything, report to me immediately. I'll make them pay with their blood. In the pugilistic world, one's strength is ultimately what counts. As the current clan master of one of the 3 great families of inner force martial artists and having reached the grandmaster realm of the painting scroll, her skills had improved by leaps and bounds after clearing the conception and governor meridians. The current Wen naturally had the right to be domineering. However, she did not feel at ease. The messenger from the Poison Sect seemed to be keeping a low profile and was aggrieved. As long as the dark sect of the Poison Sect was not eliminated, her heart would not be at ease. Returning to her room silently, Wen did not sleep. Instead, she sat cross-legged on the ice jade bed and began to cultivate. An ordinary wooden bed could no longer withstand the power that leaked out unconsciously when she cultivated. Fortunately, the Wen family had an ancestral ice jade bed. Although it was called ice jade, it was actually a high-quality polished granite. It was exceptionally sturdy and could withstand her torment. After a while, she entered a meditative state. However, some inexplicable thoughts popped up in her mind. Rather than saying that she was meditating, it would be more accurate to say that she was having strange dreams. She kept dreaming that Qin Guang would appear beside her from time to time. He would surround her and do this and that, touching her. Most of them were shameful things that could not be seen by others. She could not help but feel a strange, sucking sensation coming from her lower abdomen. It was a little sore, but it was more of a pleasure that was difficult for a girl to talk about. That was not the worst part. What was worse was that she even felt that the area between her legs was wet. When she was deep in meditation, she would even be awakened by the sound of splashing coming from below her. As a matter of fact, after completing one cycle, she opened her eyes again. Her face was flushed as she looked at the wet ice jade bed below her. She covered her face and scolded herself, "I must have been cursed by that fellow Chen Guang. Did I just sit on the ground and absorb dirt?" The strangest thing was that it was precisely this deceitful meditation that did not seem like a meditative state that allowed her to advance at an even faster speed. This was completely different from the way that her Wen family's Danqing manual stated that her heart was as still as water. Let's not talk about Wenwen's awkward situation. Let's talk about Chen Guang's side. After he hung up the phone, he only slept for about an hour in a daze. Then, there was an inexplicable knock on his door. He yawned with difficulty and looked at the little Lolita who was staring at him anxiously. "What's going on? Can't you let me have a good sleep?" Xianxia looked at him with a blushing face, then suddenly burrowed into his bed. "Damn. So direct?" Chen Guang was shocked. Xianxia gritted her teeth and said, "You're my superior. I have to obey your orders. If you want me to warm your bed, I'll warm your bed. I apologize. I shouldn't have hit you just now. My master told me that now that the Thousand Despair sect has chosen to cooperate with the government, we must show our utmost sincerity. Obeying your superior's orders is our first sincerity." "I was just joking with you," Chen Guang shouted. "Is that so? I'll leave then." Xianxia ran away again. As she walked, she patted her chest in relief, as if she had let go of a huge burden. Chen Guang was dumbfounded again. "Your reaction is too fast." To be honest, he was a little regretful. The next morning, Chen Guang finally received the biggest piece of good news recently. While he was sleeping the night before, Azure had prepared a brand new special training for him. He could finally take the first solid step in the physical training that he had exchanged for with faith points. Chen Guang plunged into Cloud City. "Can I learn Wind God's legs like Niefeng's in Wind and Cloud in one go?" Azure chuckled. "Dream on. Last time, I let you finish training the entire Qilin arm because it was a reward world in the punishment realm. The normal Jianling sky is slightly weaker. You can train your legs, but you have to start from the soles of your feet step by step. So weak. Weak my ass. It's a free benefit, and you have the cheek to say that it's weak? If you have the ability, then don't practice it. Why don't you practice it according to your Wenwen's painting scroll? By the way, don't be in a hurry. Before you practice, boil the medicine that your Wenwen sent over according to her prescription. It will be good for you." It was rare for Azure to be so considerate. Although she was impatient, she actually knew to remind Chen Guang of the things that he should pay attention to. Chen Guang agreed happily. "By the way, Lord Azure, can you help me estimate how many Jianling Sky special training worlds I need to practice before I can start practicing my internal strength?" Azure stretched out 4 fingers. Chen Guang was overjoyed. "For?" Azure smiled without saying anything. 40? Chen Guang asked again. Azure snapped her fingers. "Ice dog. Bingo. F***CK. At my current speed, I can only practice 1 round of special training after several days of faith points. Won't it take more than half a year to practice 40? Chen Guang panicked. Seeing that a great battle was imminent, he was very anxious. Azure shrugged. "You're blaming me? You're the one who has been idling around all day, not doing proper work. You're blaming me for not increasing your faith points production? Besides, do you think it's that easy to master external strength and body? Although that painting scroll is low-end, it can indeed train a person's muscles, bones, skin, flesh, and even internal organs to the extreme. The heavenly Holy Grail only needs 40 small worlds to surpass its master. It will take at most 7 to 8 months. Why do you still need a bicycle? All right, you don't have to say any more. I'll think of a way to get more faith points. I'll think of a way right now." Chen Guang was not in a hurry to start the special training. Instead, he quickly went out to receive a delivery. The medicinal ingredients that Wang Lin had sent had been there for 2 to 3 days. These things were very valuable. Speaking of which, the delivery person was also an old acquaintance. It was the Dragon Gate delivery that he was the spokesperson for. Every delivery will arrive. Chapter 586. He got up and went out. Xianxia had already gone downstairs to buy breakfast. It wasn't that Guang was slacking off, but he was quite famous now, especially around Gokyo University. He had almost become one of the 5 prides of the university. Everyone talked about him, and he was getting more and more famous. It was easy for people to notice him wandering around outside. If he went downstairs to have breakfast with a beautiful little girl like Xianxia, who knew if it would become the breaking news the next day? "You can stay at home and do whatever you want," Guang said casually as he stuffed a bun into his mouth. Xianxia looked at him and suddenly asked, "Isn't your house across the street? Why are you staying here?" Guang paused for a long time before he suddenly remembered this. It was strange that he went to Zhuo Jingxi's bedroom to sleep. He must have been controlled by a demon. What do you know? Rich people can do whatever they want. Rich people rent 2 rooms at a time, sleep one, and leave one empty. Otherwise, I don't know how to spend the money. TSK, there's something fishy. I saw it yesterday. The bedroom you slept in was clearly a room that a girl usually stayed in. Tell me, are you hiding a mistress behind Jin Shiyue or Miss Wen's back? Xianxia suddenly asked about Guang. Guang was confused by her random questions. He patted her head and said, "Kids should eat and grow. Don't ask about adult matters." "You womanizer." Xianxia glared at him fiercely again, but she was thinking, I have to be careful of this guy. What if one day he really orders me to sleep with him? What should I do? Master, should I listen to the orders of this fat chrysanthemum leader? I haven't considered such a complicated situation. If that's the case, I can only knock him out. Alright, what are you going to do later? I'm going to get something from Dragon Gate Express. Guang put down his bowl and finished it quickly. I'll go with you. What are you going to do? Just stay at home obediently. In fact, Guang wanted to take the opportunity to secretly look for Lu Fei to see if he could borrow some money from her. Although he had recently earned some money through Weibo and live streaming, he was in a hurry to expand the source of faith points. There were many places where he needed to spend money. It was better to have more liquid funds in reserve. He could borrow some money from Lu Fei, the country bumpkin, and then think of a way to slowly pay it back every month. Things were different now. Now that his income had increased, he didn't have any psychological barriers to borrowing money. Besides, didn't Lioli still have 170 million yuan to buy the company? Although there was no sign of it floating away, it would happen sooner or later, right? Even if it's a loss, it's still a loss. At least leave me some scraps, right? At the same time, he could also see what Sister Lu Fei was busy with recently. Did she have a change of heart? Could he take advantage of her? He really didn't know what was going on. After returning from Yanjing to Wujing, he felt inexplicably unsettled again. It was all Jiang Ye's fault. She blocked him in the toilet and took advantage of the old man for most of the day, but he couldn't do it to the end. He felt empty in his heart until now. Yesterday, he had been too busy during the day. There were too many things to do, so he had no time to think about those messy and dirty thoughts. But when he returned to the 5 capital, he needed to borrow money, thought of Lu Fei, and then thought of the time when he was with Lu Fei, when he took whatever she wanted. His mind really drifted uncontrollably. His thoughts were beautiful, but reality was cruel. In the end, he still couldn't get rid of Xianxia. No matter what, she had to wear a mask and sunglasses and follow him. I'm your deputy director now. You're useless except for throwing darts. I have the responsibility and obligation to protect your safety. Guang started the phaeton with the Passat logo. As he drove to the exit of the parking lot, he said, "Don't look down on me. If you want to practice darts well, you must first have a pair of strong arms. Although I don't have internal strength now, the old man has the strongest Kirin arm in history. Do you understand? Do you see this impeccable bicep? The exclusive bicep of Kirin arm is worth having and trustworthy. But, you're so lewd. Don't you feel ashamed to say such wretched words in front of a cute girl like me? Although Xianxia was naive, she actually understood the online slang of Kirin arm. Qinguang was really ashamed. This can't be blamed on me. There is a deep reason behind it. Please believe that I'm a good and upright young man. It's your own hand. Don't you decide what you want to call it? If it's wretched, then it's wretched. Why explain? It's not my first day knowing you. You're a boy after all. Which boy doesn't have messy thoughts? I understand and understand. Since you've helped me so much, do you want to experience the unique technique of the Thousand Despair sect? The Thousand Despair Kirin arm? As Xianxia spoke, she turned her head and looked at Qinguang with a playful gaze. Really? Qinguang was overjoyed. But, you'll show your true colors after a little seduction. Upright my ass. Xianxia turned her face away decisively and did not want to talk to him anymore. Qinguang clenched his teeth fiercely. Don't force me. Be careful that I act as a world-class charmer. I'll talk to you until you turn into a little slut. What are you thinking? I keep feeling that your eyes are shining when you look at the chrysanthemum of the car in front. Shut up. Don't disturb me while I'm driving. As the two of them bickered strangely, they arrived at the entrance of a luxurious residential area near the second ring road in Wujing City. Dragon Gate Express was different from other delivery companies. Due to the uniqueness of their business, they either did not have any business or they wanted to do big business. They did not need a huge warehouse. In fact, they only had one branch office in each city, which served as both a warehouse and an office. This branch office in Wujing was located in this luxurious residential area that was known as the Wealthy District. It occupied a standalone villa of about 500 square meters. Actually, Qinguang could have asked them to deliver the goods to his door with a phone call. However, his original plan was to lure Xianxia out to look for Lu Fei. Since he had already lied, he could only go there personally to cover up his lie. The two of them waited at the entrance of the residential area for a while. A young man in a suit walked out. He followed the license plate number and knocked on Qinguang's car window. Are you Qinguang? Qinguang felt that the young man's attitude was not very friendly. However, considering that Dragon Gate Express had a martial arts background and was doing a big business, it was normal for the King of Hell to be difficult to deal with. He nodded and said, "That's me." Then, the young man greeted the security guard of the residential area and said casually, "Go straight in and turn right after passing the third villa. It's villa number 66 in the 7th building." He left right after he said that. He did not intend to lead the way for Qinguang. Xianxia raised her nose angrily and looked at the back of the young man. His nostrils are so high up in the sky. Director Long, the quality of the employees in this company is too bad. He is only trained to muscle force. He is not very capable, but he has quite a temper. As Qinguang drove through the fence, he wondered, "You can see through his skills?" Xianxia said proudly, "Of course. I'm a genius disciple of the Thousand Despair sect. What secret can a mere muscle force have in front of me? You won't be able to find someone at my age who has trained to bone force, which is close to skin force." Qinguang quietly said 2 words, "One." Xianxia was immediately unhappy. She pouted and said, "One. All you think about is one. What's so good about her? If I were you, I would have cut ties with her a long time ago. Didn't she think that being friends with you would bring you trouble?" Alright, I won't argue with you." Qinguang did not completely not think about what Xianxia said. However, no one was perfect. When he and Wenwen first met, who would have expected so many things to happen? However, he did not regret it, and he could not blame Wenwen for it. If he really wanted to blame someone, he could only blame those people who tried to harm the Wen family. However, thinking about it, Wenwen also blamed herself. However, it did not matter. When the old man mastered the painting scroll and became the Condor heroes with her, they would be able to tidy up everything that needed to be tidied up. Then all the past would disappear. For these two people, thousands of thoughts did not need to be spoken out. They were hidden in their hearts and understood each other. The two of them stopped the car. The young man in the suit had already gone upstairs. The two of them knocked on the doorbell again. After waiting for about a minute, someone came down to open the door. This time, it was someone else who opened the door. It was a young man in a white chemical protective suit. He threw 2 sets of hard chemical protective suits over. Put them on and follow me to the underground warehouse. Chen Guang and Xen Qin held their temper and wrapped the chemical protective suits tightly. However, they were thinking whether they should talk to President Long Dingtian later and see what kind of people his unlucky company kept. Do you still want to do your business? What kind of service attitude is this? Since you want to do high-class delivery of valuable goods, then the customers you contact must be rich or noble. Look at what these lousy employees in your company have done. No matter what others think, the old man will not let people deliver goods from your company next time unless he has a cramp in his brain. Chen Guang and Xen Qin were not in a hurry to cover the chemical protective suits. Chen Guang whispered, "How about we talk to President Long and ask him not to broadcast my advertisement? This is simply smearing my reputation as a spokesperson." Xen Qin also nodded. "A little bit, but I have already spent the money. What should I do?" "Really? Then let's wait for them to run their own company down. Anyway, there is no way for me to pay for it. What are you two whispering about? Put on the mask. There are some valuable goods in the warehouse. What if your breath condenses into water mist and corrodes them?" The young man in front turned back and shouted through the chemical protective suit mask. Xen Qin was about to explode. I have a little temper." Chen Guang quickly pulled her back. Don't be impulsive. Take the things first." Xen Qin put on the mask angrily. "Forget it. For President Long's sake, I will endure it one more time. Alright, take your hand away. My Wang Zai mantu is not enough for you to pinch. Oh, little girl, you are so sharp." Chen Guang withdrew his hand in embarrassment and put on his mask as well. "Really, you should have said such an embarrassing thing in private. In broad daylight, people who didn't know better would think that an old man like me was taking advantage of a little girl. It was just that this chemical protective suit was too hard, and he couldn't feel it at all. This was an accident, really an accident." After going through a long staircase, the three of them went all the way to the basement. Halfway through, they passed at least 3 disinfection gates. Although the quality of the employees of this Dragon Gate Express was so low that it made one's hair stand on end, the hardware and facilities looked quite high-end. Fingerprint lock, password lock, and iris lock. The young man consecutively entered 3 passwords and finally opened a large iron gate on the wall. Then he pulled out an ebony box that was 1.5 feet tall, 1 foot 7 inches wide, and 2.5 feet long. He put it on the ground. "You guys can move it out. The things are here." Chen Guang's eyelids twitched. This bastard must have been kicked out of bed by his wife last night. His resentment must be too strong, right? This was a skill that constantly emitted fire chi to attract aggro. Its proficiency level was off the charts. Forget it. For the sake of President Long's endorsement fee of 10 million, I will King endure it. Chen Guang bent over and picked up the box. He rushed out of the underground storeroom and walked up the stairs. Xen Qin also fiercely glared at this uneducated staff member and memorized his stupid face behind the chemical protective suit mask. "If I don't call Boss Long after I get out of here, I'll sue you until my head is full of bumps, otherwise this lowly's name isn't Xen Qin." When the two of them went up to the first floor, the young man in the suit from before came again. You have taken the things. Can we go now?" "Go. Let's go. Don't King rush us." Xen Qin was so angry that she actually cursed. Chen Guang, on the other hand, rubbed his fists together. As long as this bastard said something unpleasant again, he would immediately slap him in the face. He had sold President Long's face time and time again, but he could not sell it anymore. This King endorsement fee, could the old man not earn it anymore? Unexpectedly, the young man in the suit was not angry at all. He still had a smile on his face as he opened the door. He waved his hand and said, "Please." The two of them walked out of the villa angrily. They had no idea what had happened today. Chen Guang was about to move the box into the car when he suddenly realized a problem. With the old man's many years of online shopping experience, we seem to have forgotten to open the box and inspect the goods. Inspect the goods? Inspect what goods? Dragon Gate Express will not do things recklessly. Oh right, what are the things inside? Who sent them? Xianxia was puzzled. Chen Guang waved his hand. No. Under normal circumstances, I will definitely not inspect the goods. But don't you think that the two scumbags just now are too much? They seem to want to chase us out like we are the plague. Xianxia smacked her lips. Really? Chen Guang nodded. It's a ghost. A huge ghost. Open the box and take a look. Xianxia nodded. The two of them placed the box on the ground and opened it. It was filled with medicinal herbs, and the smell of medicine wafted into their noses. Is there no problem? Is it Chinese medicine? Chen Guang took out his phone and opened WeChat. He compared the list of goods that Wenwen had sent him. Is this the medicine that Wenwen sent you? Xianxia asked as she bent down to look at the medicinal herbs. Chen Guang nodded. He thought that since she was pestering him all day, he could not hide the fact that he wanted to soak the medicine from her. He might as well tell her. He could not let the painting scroll spread, but it was not a problem to let Xianxia know that he wanted to practice the painting scroll. Yes, these are the external medicinal herbs that Wenwen prepared for me to practice the painting scroll. Painting scroll, Xianxia exclaimed. Then she realized that she had lost her composure and covered her mouth. How is that possible? The Wen family's painting scroll is never spread. Even the son-in-law who marries into the family cannot learn it. This is their ancestral teaching, she said nervously in a low voice. She looked like she had seen a ghost. Chen Guang was pleased. What do you know? This is true love. Moreover, she is now a literary grandmaster. I heard that she can decide to pass the painting scroll to me. It's not a problem. Xianxia was jealous. She was jealous that Chen Guang could learn the painting scroll. She was even more jealous that Wenwen was a literary grandmaster. She could actually give the painting scroll to him as a favor. Compared to these two, her reputation as a genius disciple of the Thousand Absolutes sect was really shameful. What else could she give to Chen Guang that would be more prestigious than the painting scroll? She could not give him the cultivation technique of the Thousand Absolutes sect. Apart from her stunning beauty and her peerless body, she probably could not compare to Wenwen in anything else, right? She thought. Then she picked up a ginseng. Her eyes narrowed. Something's not right. Your list says it's 100-year-old ginseng, but why do I feel that the one in my hand is a small radish? What? Radish? Are you King kidding me? Crunch. Xianxia took a bite and stuffed it in front of Chen Guang's mouth. Why don't you try it? It's a real radish. It's the kind that can replenish all kinds of vitamins. It's natural and organic. Chen Guang could not care less about his indirect kiss with Xianxia. He took a bite and threw the radish on the ground. I'm a thunder thrower. 100-year-old ginseng turned into a radish. This Dragon Gate Express is going against the heavens. Clearly, Wenwen could not have sent it to the wrong person. Other than the fact that this daring Dragon Gate Express employee had switched the ginseng, he could not think of anything else. However, Chen Guang couldn't be bothered to figure out where his employees got their guts from to even dare to switch their spokesperson's goods. He held onto the box with one hand and returned to the door, banging on the door. Come out! Come out! Chapter 587. How could Chen Guang tolerate such a scam? He slammed the alloy security door so hard that it made banging sounds. He was barely able to control himself. Otherwise, the security door would probably be deformed if he used all his strength. After slamming for almost 2 minutes, the person inside finally could not take it anymore. It was still the young man in a suit. He opened the door and glared at Chen Guang. What are you doing? Are you looking for trouble? When this person spoke, his nostrils were practically pointed at the sky. He was arrogant, despotic, and condescending. Chen Guang waved the other white radish he took out from the box and waved it in front of this bastard's eyes. Looking for trouble? I think you're the one looking for trouble. Open your dog eyes and take a good look at what this is. I exchanged my 100-year-old ginseng for a white radish. You guys sure have guts. How dare you eat my stuff? The young man in a suit was not nervous in the face of Chen Guang's questioning. He was still as arrogant as ever. Don't slander us. Our company's business is over after we handed the stuff over to you. Now that you've opened the box yourself, you're telling me that you exchanged your stupid ginseng for a white radish? Who knew if the box was originally filled with white radishes? Otherwise, you must have replaced the radishes yourself. How dare you try to blackmail us, Dragon Gate Express? Chen Guang was furious. This bastard was the perfect example of a delivery company's bad habit. After receiving the goods, he did not acknowledge it and did not even allow him to open it on the spot. Yet, Chen Guang was making a false accusation. Would Wen send a white radish over? Don't if *king mess with me, okay? Get lost. Don't interfere with our work. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. The young man in a suit waved his hand impatiently. He wanted to chase Chen Guang away as if he was chasing a fly away. Chen Guang flew into a rage and was about to attack, but Xianxia, who was beside him, couldn't hold back anymore. Sure enough, he was still a young man with a bad temper. He attacked without saying a word and didn't want to talk nonsense with him. A white shadow flashed, and the petite Xianxia brushed past Chen Guang. She placed her hand on Chen Guang's shoulder and flew up like a butterfly. The tip of her foot lightly stepped on the forehead of the young man in the suit. It seemed to be a light touch, but the young man was sent flying as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. With a rumble, he crashed into the wooden handrail a few meters behind him and fell to the ground. The other employees of Dragon Gate Delivery who were sitting on the first floor of the villa slapped the table and stood up. They surrounded him, and all of them were very excited. Xianxia stood there with a cold face. She pulled off the mask on her face. How dare a group of weaklings be so arrogant? Even if I let you use only one hand, you still wouldn't be my opponent. Xianxia of the Thousand Despair sect was here. Who dares to attack me? Chen Guang stood behind Xianxia. He wanted to see what would happen if he hit this person's stomach with his qilin arm, but he did not have the chance to do so. He felt regretful, but since Xianxia took the initiative to jump out and become his fighter, he was happy that he could save himself some effort. The young man in the suit was clearly the person in charge of this branch company. Even though he was suddenly hit, Xianxia had shown mercy and did not kill him. He rubbed the blood from his mouth and stood up slowly. He glared at Xianxia with a fierce gaze. Don't talk nonsense. Ms. Xin is in Beijing, and it's impossible for her to come here. You're an imposter. Oh my, I'm a little hot-tempered. Xianxia rolled up her sleeves and walked forward. She really wanted to cut this person into pieces. Chen Guang reacted quickly. He quickly extended his arms from behind her and hugged her. Wait a minute. Let me get my things back first. Let me tell you, next time you take advantage of me like this, can you at least tell me beforehand? There are so many people watching. No, it's an accident. This is definitely an accident. Look at my sincere eyes. Chen Guang coughed twice and stood in front of the young man in the suit. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. Now, give me back all the herbs that you stole, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Do you know who I am? Do you know who gave me this medicine? Do you believe that I will call your boss Long right now? When that time comes, you won't be able to bear the consequences. When he said this, he did not know why, but a strong sense of incongruity arose in his heart. Oh my God, when did the old man become so villainous? Usually, villains who said such things to show off would not survive more than 2 episodes in the story. I don't care who you are. Anyway, I don't know what's going on with your medicine. It was obvious that the young man in the suit did not care about anything that Chen Guang said. Chen Guang frowned. Could it be that these people really did not know him? When he thought about it, it was not impossible. After all, although he was a little famous now, he was still far from an international superstar like Wazai. It was understandable that they did not know him. However, this matter seemed to be a little f*** kept up. He did not know how Dragon Gate Express's rules were set up. It seemed that the sender and the recipient's information were all hidden. The standard of this salesman was almost breaking the bottom line. "You're so stubborn, aren't you? It seems that I can only call your boss Long. He even dares to steal the herbs that the head of the Wen family gave to me, Chen Guang, who is also the spokesperson of Dragon Gate Express. He is so lawless," Chen Guang said as he prepared to take out his phone. At this moment, a middle-aged woman walked out from the door next to the hall of the villa. She was dressed like a servant and held a typical ceramic pot of guangwei soup in her hand. "Boss, isn't this medicine too heavy? Will it cause problems?" The middle-aged woman held the pot in her hand and looked distressed. It was obvious that the pot had been boiled for a period of time. She held it out and shook it slightly, and the room was filled with the fragrance of the medicine. "Hey, you grandson, are you lying through your teeth?" Not only did this group of scum steal his medicine, but they even cooked the soup on the spot. The scene became a little awkward for a moment. At this moment, a staff member standing in front of the computer seemed to have accidentally glanced at the computer from the corner of his eye. The company's spokesperson just edited the promotional video sample. It was just sent to the company's group chat. Then he immediately clicked on the video. "Dragon Gate Express. Everything will be delivered." A few seconds later, Chen Guang's handsome face appeared in the video. However, at that time, Chen Guang still had a head of beautiful hair. Now he was bald. It was no wonder that no one could recognize him. The young man in the suit's face instantly turned pale. He first looked at the screen that was playing the video sample, then looked at Chen Guang. "What? Do you believe me now? Spit out what you've eaten from me. Hand over the other medicinal ingredients." Chen Guang placed his hands on his waist and took a step forward. Xianxia followed closely behind, ready to attack at any moment. She had also learned something new. The Dragon Gate Express 5 Capital Branch had completely changed her outlook on life. The young man in the suit's face first turned from yellow to white, then from white to green, and before long, it turned black again. He looked at Chen Guang and Xianxia, and his expression changed several times. Then he secretly gave the others a look, and suddenly, a fierce glint flashed in his eyes. "I don't know you. How dare you barge into our company, then you're the enemy of Dragon Gate Express." As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a half-foot dagger from his waist and glared at Chen Guang and Xianxia fiercely. The others also understood tacitly and surrounded them from all directions. Obviously, seeing that the matter had been exposed and they had offended someone they couldn't afford to offend, they might as well take the lives of these two people and leave them here without anyone knowing. As an elite at the peak of bone force, Xianxia was not afraid. She flicked her wrist, and 2 plum blossom darts appeared in her palm. Good timing. The rules of the pugilistic world are that life and death are not counted. At that moment, a loud bang came from the villa's anti-theft door. The sturdy anti-theft door was completely deformed by this attack. The tense atmosphere immediately froze, and everyone turned their heads to look. Another loud bang came, and the anti-theft door fell. A muscular figure stood at the door, and it was the livid chairman Long of Dragon Gate Express, Long Dingtian. The young man in the suit immediately lost his will to fight. He sat on the ground with a trembling voice. Sect Master, Long Dingtian strode forward and said angrily, "How dare you?" The young man in the suit was so terrified that he could not speak clearly. "This is a misunderstanding, Sect Master." Long Dingtian ignored him. Instead, he turned around and cupped his hands at Chen Guang and Xianxia. "Both of you, Long Dingtian, would like to apologize to you here. Such a scum has appeared in the sect, and it has ruined my reputation. I will definitely compensate Mr. Chen for your loss, and I will definitely give both of you a satisfactory explanation." Chen Guang looked at Long Dingtian, who was suppressing his anger, and he was not very happy. "I was your spokesperson, and Wen trusted your company and asked you to help me deliver the goods. In the end, it turned out to be like this? Chairman Long, your company's business standards really need to be improved. If I didn't come with Xianxia today, I'm afraid your incredible employees would have killed me." Chen Guang here. Chen Guang's words were filled with dissatisfaction. Xianxia was also very unhappy. Chairman Long, since you've chosen to do business, you should follow the rules of a businessman. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I'm afraid I'll go back and report this to my master. As for the business between our Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley. Long Dingtian's expression changed, and his pupils shrank. He seemed to have made a decision and cupped his hands again. Of course, I, Long Dingtian, have always been a responsible person. At that moment, the young man in the suit realized something from Long Dingtian's tone. His face turned pale, and he retreated while shouting, "No." Sir, you were? As soon as the young man in the suit finished his sentence, Long Dingtian turned around at lightning speed and slapped the young man's head. His inner force burst forth, and a dull sound was heard. The eyes of the young man in the suit instantly became slack. His mouth was wide open, and his face was filled with panic. His eyes were filled with confusion and unwillingness, but he was still dead in the end. He fell limply to the ground, and there was no longer any sign of life. The main culprit has been executed. All of you, break one of your arms. Long Dingtian said coldly as he pointed at the other 10 staff members of the 5 Capital Branch Company, who were also his sect's disciples. I'll count to 3. Those who break their arms will die. Long Dingtian began to count. 3. As soon as he finished counting to 3, he heard a series of groans in the room. These people were fighting to be the first to break their arms, and the scene looked exceptionally cruel. Long Dingtian's decisiveness in killing was beyond Qin Guang's expectations, but Xianxia didn't seem to be surprised. Mr. Qin, is this considered an explanation? Long Dingtian turned around again and smiled apologetically at Qin Guang and Xianxia. Yes. Qin Guang suppressed the discomfort in his heart and snorted. In the past, he had only seen these inner force martial artists disregard human lives in the intelligence reports or after the incident. Today, he had experienced it himself, and he was the cause of the incident. Of course, he felt a little uncomfortable. However, such incidents might not be rare in the future, so he had to adapt even if he couldn't adapt. Xianxia didn't say anything and just nodded slightly in satisfaction. Xianxia might look like a cute loli normally, but when it came to the matters of the underworld, she was more experienced than Qin Guang. However, Long Dingtian waved his hand again. This isn't enough. As soon as he finished speaking, he punched his chest fiercely. A muffled sound echoed like the ringing of a large bell, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Because of my personal negligence, Mr. Chen and Xianxia from the Thousand Despair sect have fallen into a dangerous situation and suffered grievances. I'll hurt my heart as an apology. I hope Miss Xian won't let this matter affect my cooperation with your sect. Alright, I promise you. Xianxia finally relented. From the moment Long Dingtian entered the door until now, he had been interrogated, killed, broken arms, and mutilated himself. This series of events took a long time to describe, but it happened so quickly that it caught people off guard. At the dining table in Beijing, he was the smiling and amiable Chief Long. However, when he arrived at the 5 Capital Branch Company, he became a pure underworld person when dealing with the traders. When he made a move, he killed without blinking. Long Dingtian wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth again. He didn't take the injuries on his body seriously and cupped his fists at Qin Guang. Mr. Qin, please take a seat. I'll get someone to send over the medicinal ingredients that they dared to steal. I'll definitely compensate you twice as much as you lack. Qin Guang didn't reply and merely nodded. His peripheral vision would occasionally glance at the corpse of the young man in a suit that was lying on the ground. This small action completely exposed his state of mind as an ordinary person. Long Dingtian rolled his eyes and asked the few servants who broke their arms to retrieve the stolen goods. He then said rather casually, Mr. Chen, don't be surprised. When these servants entered our sect, they had to sign a life and death agreement. His behavior in our Dragon Gate escort agency is equivalent to deceiving his master and ancestors. According to the past rules, he should be punished with the death penalty. However, as the main culprit, he can't escape the death penalty. This matter is in accordance with the rules of the underworld and also the rules set by the imperial court. There will be someone to handle it. After saying that, Long Dingtian pointed to the sky with a meaningful look. Chen Guang understood. Of course, there will be someone to handle it for you. Isn't it the Special Affairs Bureau? Thinking about how arrogant and unscrupulous the young man in a suit was and how he wanted to kill when he saw that the matter had been exposed, Chen Guang couldn't sympathize with him. However, there was a faint sense of discomfort and incongruity in his heart. He couldn't tell where it came from, but he could just treat it as a man's intuition. The two of them waited for about 5 to 6 minutes. The young man in a suit's corpse had already been dragged somewhere. The box of medicinal ingredients that Wang Lin had sent over was then exchanged from the raccoon to the crown prince. After a quick count, they realized that there were still 3 ginseng and other precious medicinal ingredients missing. Clearly, they had been added to the pot of Cantonese-style soup. Long Dingtian immediately decided to double the amount of medicinal ingredients as soon as possible. Chapter 588. Before Chen Guang and Xan Qinlin were about to leave, Long Dingtian asked about Chen Guang's UBS account. He said that he felt guilty about what happened today and that he would definitely repay him generously as compensation for his mental distress. After placing the big box in the trunk, Chen Guang got into the car and turned to ask Xan Qin, "Chief Long is one of us, right?" Xan Qin was puzzled as she tucked her hair behind her ear. "Brother Chen Guang, are you frightened by how he killed his subordinate?" It didn't matter. His servant's actions today were a huge taboo for an escort agency that was built on its reputation. My Thousand Despair sect and the Dragon Gate escort agency have been working together for many years. Previously, when you obtained the strength elixir, most of the delivery work was handed over to the Dragon Gate escort agency. We are old acquaintances and can be trusted. Is that so? Forget it then. Chen Guang smiled as the doubts in his heart gradually disappeared. Just as he was about to start the car, a deafening explosion came from behind. When the two of them turned around, they could only see the dazzling fire. It was obviously daytime, but it was so bright that they were almost blinded. The detached villa behind the two of them had actually exploded in front of their eyes. Broken walls and debris were flying everywhere, and a huge piece of broken cement was heading straight for the phaeton. Chen Guang was quick to react. He still maintained his posture of looking back, but his right hand had already switched to the gear with lightning speed. He stepped on the accelerator, and the phaeton's engine roared crazily as it sped forward. The piece of cement that was chasing after them smashed into the spot where they had stopped, and smoke and dust were everywhere. What's going on?" Chen Guang and Xan Qin asked in surprise at the same time. Before they could finish their sentence, there was another explosion. Raging flames engulfed the villa and instantly engulfed the entire villa. Xan Qin was about to get out of the car, but Chen Guang pulled her back. "Don't go." Right at this moment, 2 figures suddenly rushed out from the flames. The one in front was the tall and sturdy Long Dingtian. But at this moment, he no longer looked like a sect leader. His face was charred black, his hair was smoking, and his whole body was burnt black. His clothes were torn and tattered, and his chest and arms were full of bloodstains and wounds, making him look like he was in a sorry state. Another relatively thin figure followed behind him and jumped out of the fire. It seemed that the explosion did not cause much damage to her clothes. It was the middle-aged woman who had just come out of the kitchen. "Long Dingtian, hand over your life." The cooking auntie took strange steps and roared. She took out a soft sword from her waist and stabbed at Long Dingtian's back. Long Dingtian tried to escape 2 steps, but his injuries worsened and he couldn't pull away from her. He could only turn around boldly and stomp his feet on the ground. He took a stable horse stance and punched at the woman's soft sword with both fists. "Old Lady Jinhua, I, Long Dingnan, will never forgive you." "Haha, I didn't intend to fight at first, but since you hurt yourself today, don't blame me, Grandma Jinhua, for taking this opportunity to send you to hell." The cooking auntie grinned and swung her flexible sword lightly, creating an afterimage that swept towards Long Dingtian's fists. At this moment, she no longer had the appearance of a servant. Her demeanor and tone were filled with a sinister aura. Suddenly, the two of them collided fiercely. Blood splattered from Long Dingtian's arms, and his flesh flew everywhere. He did not know how badly he was injured by Grandma Jinhua's sword. However, Jinhua Popo did not have it easy either. Long Dingtian, in a desperate situation, allowed her to stab the flesh on his hand with her soft sword. He did not even try to evade. Instead, he punched forward with both fists, hitting her in the chest and sending her flying back into the sea of fire. However, Long Dingtian didn't dare to follow up with another attack. Instead, he dragged his injured arms and ran out. Chen Guang, who was reversing the car to support him, felt his teeth ache when he saw Long Dingtian's arms. A small part of the flesh on his forearm had been sliced off by the flexible sword in an instant, and one could easily see the eerie white bones. "Get in the car." Chen Guang turned the steering wheel with his left hand and placed the back door beside Long Dingtian. Long Dingtian opened the door and got in without hesitation. Grandma Jinhua rushed out of the sea of fire again. She was not as carefree as before. Her hair was disheveled, and the ends of her hair were still emitting flames. She looked like a crazy demon. "Long Dingtian, die for me. Let's go." Crazy Grandma Jinhua is one of the Dark Clan's 4 great protectors. She has a blood feud with me. Usually, we are on par, but today, I'm injured on top of my injuries. I'm no match for her. Long Dingtian curled up his body. The excruciating pain caused sweat to seep out of his forehead, and his dark face to turn pale. As Chen Guang sped up, Xianxia leaned out of the passenger's window and threw the storm dart. The storm dart enveloped Grandma Jinhua and slowed her down. They broke through the villa's guardrail and went straight to the suburbs without slowing down. Chen Guang used his driving skills to the extreme. If the racing god wanted to escape, no one would be able to catch up. Under Long Dingtian's guidance, they crossed a small road and came to an inconspicuous house in the suburbs. Long Dingtian got out of the car and fell to the ground. As for the back seat of Chen Guang's phaeton, it was completely stained by his blood. A group of people rushed out of the house and hurriedly carried Long Dingtian inside. However, Chen Guang and Xianxia were not in a hurry to follow them. Chen Guang asked, "The Dark Clan's 4 great protectors? What's the matter with this crazy Grandma Jinhua? What kind of blood feud does she have with Boss Long?" Xianxia's gaze was solemn. "It's not strange. Although I don't know what their past is, there are rumors of their conflict in the pugilistic world. Maybe it's because they killed each other when they were young." Golden Flower Granny was skilled in disguising herself and sneak attacks. She was the dark sex protector, but she was also in charge of the dark sex business that was similar to Dragon Gates Express. The two of them had old grudges and new grudges, and this was not the first time they had fought like this. I just didn't expect old Grandma Jinhua to be crazy enough to disguise herself as a servant and hide in the 5 capitals. If it weren't for us, Long Dingtian would be dead. What? Business rivals? Why are they making such a big fuss over a business? Chen Guang was stunned. He thought of the love-hate relationship between SF Express and Jitong, as well as the commotion between Hungry Man and Matewan. Compared to these 2 business elites, those people were simply amateurs. Look at how other people's bosses snatch business. Learn from them. Xianxia shrugged. There are many things in the pugilistic world that you don't know. Then we won't be involved in this, right? Chen Guang was a little troubled. He didn't want to face a crazy woman like old Grandma Jinhua. Xianxia asked him in return, "To be honest, aren't you more involved than Boss Long? Right now, your One is going around saying that she wants to uproot both the Poison Clan and the Dark Clan." That makes sense. Forget it. There's no need to worry about too many deaths." Chen Guang also felt that his worries were meaningless. Thinking about it carefully, he was the one who was implicated. The two of them stood at the door for a while, but Long Dingtian had already woken up. He was barely bandaged and was wrapped up like a mummy. He forced someone to help him out of the room. "Thank you for saving my life." He wanted to cup his fists again, but before he could raise his hands, he was in so much pain that he had to grit his teeth. Chen Guang waved his hand. "You're welcome. Anyway, we're not the same family as the Dark Clan. It's just that your injuries, Long Dingtian was rather heroic. It's fine. This is nothing. I had a fight with old Grandma Jinhua in the past, and she almost dug my heart out. This is just a small injury, and I'll recover after some rest. It's just that this time, the two of you were involved in my fight with old Grandma Jinhua. I'm really ashamed. Chen Guang didn't mind. Don't stand on ceremony. It's fate that we got to know each other. If there's nothing else, we'll take our leave first. Looking at how Long Dingtian was still trying his best to hold on despite his injuries, even he felt the pain for him. Chen Guang was starting to get anxious. Xianxia was at the peak of bone tendons, while Long Dingtian and old Grandma Jinhua were experts in skin force. In the past, Wenwen was also an expert in skin force. However, Chen Guang had never seen Wenwen using her real skills. Previously, in the mountains of Feng Town in Beijing, when he rushed over, he was basically just cleaning up the aftermath. Today, after witnessing it with his own eyes, Chen Guang realized that this skin force martial artist was much stronger than he had imagined. To forge iron, one had to be strong. Compared to these people, his Qilin arms and dart skills were nothing. He was panicking and wanted to rush back to soak in medicine and cultivate. His own strength was the most important. Long Dingtian was seriously injured and wasn't in a good state of mind. He didn't keep Chen Guang and Xianxia any longer. He only said that he would repay Chen Guang for saving his life today and didn't know what else to give. He only asked Chen Guang to pay attention to the money in his bank account. Chen Guang didn't take it seriously and drove away. Halfway through the journey, his phone rang. He was waiting at a red light when he took a look. "TSK, I thought it was a lot. It's just 4 million. You're bluffing." If it was in the past, 4 million would have been enough for him to enjoy for half a year. But it was different now. He worked hard on Weibo every month, and he also worked hard on his live stream. His monthly income was at least 2 to 3 million. It was just 4 million. It wasn't exciting. Xianxia picked it up for him and took a look. 4 million? That's great. The remaining 36 million is mine. I'll go. Chen Guang stopped the car by the roadside and snatched the phone back from Xianxia. After taking a closer look, he realized that he had missed a zero. He was delighted. "Stop fooling around. I have urgent need for this money. President Long is generous enough to solve my urgent need." What generous? He used his life to exchange for it. 40 million is too cheap for him. Can you share some with me? I want to invest more in the darts league. Xianxia shook Chen Guang's arm and acted like a spoiled child. Chen Guang shook his head. "I can't explain it to you clearly, but I really have great use for it. Out of the 7 perfect cups, only the darts league was at full value. The remaining 6 god statues were gone. In any case, the remaining 6 cups had to be improved. Otherwise, it would be strenuous to only have one special training session every 5 to 6 days. Can I do it at all?" Xianxia thought that Chen Guang was stingy, but Chen Guang wouldn't tell her about the faith value. "No way. How about I serve you in bed? 1 million each time?" "You're saying that. Doesn't your master give you money?" Our Thousand Despair sect is actually very poor. We never save money. Then don't you know how to ask for money from others? For example, President Long? I'm embarrassed. You're embarrassed to ask for money from others. You're not embarrassed to sell yourself to me? Selling yourself is selling your skills is also selling. You get what you pay for your labor. I think you're quite pleasing to the eye. Where's your moral integrity? Besides, 1 million per time is too expensive. I can hire 10 college students for a year with 1 million, okay? Tisk, is there such a cute lowly among college students? How can the user experience be the same? Aren't you tempted? You get what you pay for, okay? Shut up. Chen Guang didn't want to talk to Xianxia at all. Her brain was not working properly. After a long time, Xianxia said, "I'm still a virgin. It's my first time. It's very tight." Shut up. After a while, they were about to reach the neighborhood. Xianxia spoke again. "Brother Chen Guang, then I'll lower the price. 100,000 per time? I'll just work harder." Chen Guang stepped on the brakes and covered his face. He was tempted. However, when he looked at Xianxia's porcelain doll-like face under the sun and her innocent eyes, he didn't know where she learned it from. Although he was gradually convinced that she was indeed an adult, he still couldn't get rid of the guilt in his heart. I beg you to shut up. I'm afraid of you, okay? I'll give you 5 million. Stop talking, stop talking. If she seduced him again, he wouldn't be able to take it anymore. Okay, 50 times. I'll warm your bed tonight. Remember to be gentle. Get lost. Not long after the two of them returned home, Chen Guang tried to brew the medicine himself. After struggling for less than 10 minutes, he decisively gave up. This was really not a job that a man like him could do well, especially when Wenwen's prescription had a 9.0 difficulty index. Fortunately, there was a professional, Xianxia. Although the Thousand Despair sect wasn't good at concocting pills, Xianxia was still an expert and had come into contact with such things in the sect. At first, she didn't want to do the work, but when the head of the Thousand Despair sect ordered her, the only subordinate under the sole commander, to do the work, Xianxia pouted and accepted it. On the other hand, after the fight with Long Dingtian, the Golden Flower Granny had left quietly before the police arrived. After being punched in the chest by Long Dingtian, the Golden Flower Granny's stomach was churning and she suffered internal injuries. Long Ding, this bastard! This old granny is dying of pain. The Golden Flower Granny sat on a chair in the park, cursing. When the phone in her hand was finally connected, she immediately straightened her face. Mr. Ng, how's it going? Miss Wen seems to have given Chen Guang some medicinal herbs. It seems that she wants Chen Guang to start practicing martial arts from now on. On the other side of the phone, Mr. Ng seemed to sneer. Start practicing martial arts from now on? Yes, I've checked those medicinal herbs. They are all medicinal herbs used by martial artists to build their foundation and temper their bodies. But in my humble opinion, I really can't tell what kind of martial arts they are used for. Mr. Ng laughed loudly. It doesn't matter if you can't tell. Chen Guang is already more than 20 years old. What's the use of practicing martial arts from now on? Although Miss Wen is in a rage, her heart is as clear as a mirror. She has thought it through thoroughly. What do you mean by that, sir? Mr. Ng seemed to be in a good mood today and was quite patient. Don't you understand? When an adult practices martial arts, he may not achieve anything even if he spends dozens of years. Miss Wen is just using her internal energy to attract Chen Guang. It seems that she wants to teach him something, but in fact, it is nothing more than finding something for Chen Guang to do to make him behave. So what if he doesn't know what kind of martial arts it is? So what if it is the Wen family's dancing scroll? Can he practice it? Let the people in the 5 capitals come back. It is useless to stay there. There is no need to worry about Chen Guang anymore. Don't we need to tamper with his medicinal herbs? There's no need for that. I just hope that Wen can quickly settle down and stop doing meaningless things to provoke her. Chapter 589. Lying comfortably in the bathtub, the feeling of this medicinal bath was quite good. There was a strong cold feeling on the surface of the skin that came into contact with it, but he could also feel that countless streams of heat were constantly penetrating his pores from the medicinal bath into his body. It was just that it was a little pungent in the mouth, and he didn't know the reason. Well, isn't this medicinal soup for bathing? Why would he know the taste of it in the mouth? Because when he just got out of the bathtub, his foot slipped and he fell into the water. Lying on his back, feeling the medicinal power enter his body, enjoying the rare leisure in this busy time. His head leaned against the slope of the bathtub, looking at the white mist above his head. Taking a deep breath, Chen Guang began to analyze his current situation in his mind. Including all the sources of faith value, his current total production of faith value was 138,972 units per day. The largest income came from the daily production of the World of Darts, 44,448 units. In addition, the Racing World's 25,500 units, the Pile Driver Little 6's 38,000 units, and Kirin Arm Little 7's 18,000 units. The other world of the Sword Tower, Piano, pencil sharpening, as well as the special faith value provided by the fanatic Wang Lin, as well as the special faith value from the world of the transient sea, including the pile driver and piano, totaling 29,000 units per day. Among them, the faith value provided by the fanatic and the transient sea was not affected by the upper limit of the world in the cup. But for the others, the racing god realm, the pencil sharpener realm, the piano realm, the Kirin arm realm, the sword tower realm, and the pile driver realm, none of these 6 realms had reached the maximum capacity of 44,448. Oh right, I forgot to mention that after so many days, the deer cry flower, which was the medium, had grown a little and sprouted 2 more buds, so the upper limit of the daily production had also jumped up a whole 3 points. Each custom world in the cup of the Holy Grail required about 600,000 to 2 million faith value. After all, this was the special training that Chen Guang himself participated in, and it was different from the training of others. Chen Guang was the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, so it was reasonable for him to enjoy all the custom-made services of the Holy Grail. The effects of the Holy Grail would not be discounted, and there were no hidden dangers. Liu Li could protect him. When he was training others, he would pull them into the world in a cup that Chen Guang himself had practiced. The Holy Grail would not create a new world, nor would it take up the total amount of the 3,000 worlds. However, when he was training Chen Guang, it was equivalent to him paying faith points to purchase a full experience of the Heavenly Spirit Cup's middle world. The Heavenly Grail had to create a new world for him, which was almost identical to an ordinary middle world. The only difference was that as long as he had faith points, he could have as many as he wanted until the total amount of the Heavenly Spirit Cup's middle world was depleted. Of course, this was not all good. Because he needed to create a new world, the amount of faith required was not fixed. It would fluctuate according to the size of the world in the cup that Chen Guang wanted. For example, in the world in the cup that he had experienced before, the most miserable was the alto in the world of the car god. That narrow space made him want to cry, but no tears came out. However, whether it was the world in the piano, dart, or pile driver, the treatment was much better. When he played the piano, he could walk around freely on the Virginia, although the deck would become a mosaic, and even the sun would become a mosaic. Other worlds in the cup had a large pool with a radius of 100 meters, and it was not bad to take a swim when he had nothing to do. When he was training others, he needed a fixed amount of 600,000 faith points. If he wanted to see the Heavenly Spirit Cup's middle world, 600,000 was only the minimum requirement. If he wanted to experience the supreme service of the Virginia with realistic NPCs, he had to pay 2 million. Now, his total inventory was about 980,000 faith points. He could choose to pay a little more to improve the user experience, or he could choose to pay only 600,000 to enjoy the beggar version of the world in the cup. The meticulous Chen Guang thought about it for a while and finally decided that he had to control his costs. In order to complete the world in the cup 40 times as soon as possible, he would use the beggar version of the world in the cup. In addition to reducing costs, he also had to increase income. How to make the world in the cup, which was still in a hungry state, reach the maximum value as soon as possible was his top priority. He had to find a way to further expand his influence in the field he was good at. For example, in the Dota Cup, although no one could surpass his feat of reaching the top 4 times, as time passed and people saw more, they slowly became numb to it. With the passage of time, the countless battle recordings he had left behind were gradually forgotten by the people. Even if his name was still there, he was not a professional gamer. He had never won an international invitational tournament, and he was not a member of the esports circle either. His live stream was also a slow process, and his fame would be worn away with time. Chen Guang felt that it was necessary for him to do something. He had to dig out his reputation in the Dota Cup or the esports circle and increase it as much as he could. There was also the racing world. Although his unsurpassed record on the Hong Kong track was still there, anyone who knew about it, whether they were professional drivers or amateurs, would worship him to the extreme, regardless of whether they were professional drivers or amateurs. But on a global scale, the number of people who knew about the racing god Chen Guang was small, and he had never participated in formal world competitions such as the WRC rally. If he had the opportunity to participate in these world competitions, he could turn himself from the illusory world's strongest racing god to a real racing god Qinguang, and the number of faith points provided by the same person would also increase significantly. Other than that, he had another idea. He could also consider expanding the influence of one of his specialties. For example, sharpening pencils. No matter how high the skill level was, not many people were interested in it. First, he had to let people know about the existence of the skill of sharpening pencils. Secondly, there was a difference in the level of sharpening pencils. The skill of 100,000 people and the skill of 10 million people, of course, could provide a huge difference in the number of faith points. The pile driver, on the other hand, had nothing to struggle with. Basically, it had full faith points. The Kirin arm, on the other hand, still had a lot of room for growth. He estimated that participating in the WRC would be enough for the Racing God Cup. At that time, he would pay for it out of his own pocket and make a good use of the Internet Water Army. Things like the first Chinese WRC champion, the unprecedented record reaper, he could hype it up to death. The idea was good, but participating in the competition was too troublesome, so he temporarily put it aside. The three with the greatest potential were piano, pencil sharpening, and Dota Cup. Unfortunately, piano was an art. No matter how high one's level was, others would not easily admit defeat, and it was difficult to expand. Chen Guang slapped his head. It was like a cow trying to gnaw on a pumpkin. He did not know where to start. The more he thought about it, the more he did not know what to do. Why not start from the most convenient thing, the Dota Cup? Should I organize a global solo competition? Anyway, he had 40 million, 35 million in his pocket. He was not worried. The total prize money of the champion team of the International Invitational Tournament was about 5 million USD, right? Then, an online solo competition with a total prize pool of 2 million USD, would he be afraid? The top 20 could take turns to fight with him. As long as they won a match, you could take away 100,000 USD in cash. Would you be afraid? The prize pool was comparable to the International Invitational Tournament's solo competition. It was definitely going to be influential. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. It was not difficult to carry out the plan. He could leave the online publicity to Xiaozong and his bamboo livestream. He just had to stay at home and play solo with others. It would save him time and effort. The competition organization, sponsors, and V-Club could all be left to Xiaozong. It was also beneficial to him. He did not need to spend much money, so he should not have any objections. Anyway, he was a professional livestream company. He had plenty of people under him. There was no time to lose. He would do it after he came out of the world in the cup. That was a good plan. As for what to do next after this, he could not be bothered to think too much about it. He would cross the bridge when he came to it. He could not possibly be suffocated to death. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, there was a knock on the bathroom door. It was Xianxia. Director, do you need a back rub? Go ahead. Your deputy director is only wrapped in a towel. My back suddenly feels a little itchy. Your deputy director is offline. TSK, no sincerity. Actually, Xianxia wanted to come in. Although she knew that it was wrong of her to do so, she was really curious about how the painting scroll tempered the body. However, she really did not have the cheek to take the initiative to ask. She wanted to stay by Qinguang's side in the name of scrubbing his back and secretly learn some techniques. However, she immediately regretted it after she said it. She wrapped herself in a towel and returned to her bedroom. Sitting on the bed, she sulked. She patted her head and put her palms together in repentance. Master, your disciple has done something stupid again. No matter which family it is a secret. How can I covet other people's techniques, especially the Wen family's painting scroll? She shook her head violently and muttered to herself, No, no, no. This is a taboo. Fortunately, she did not go in. Otherwise, Chen Guang would have taken advantage of her. Moreover, Chen Guang had no intention of touching the painting scroll at all. He was just taking a normal bath. Chen Guang soaked in the bathtub for nearly 2 hours, which was the 2 hours written in Wenwen's secret manual. Then he was too lazy to get up. He grabbed the heavenly holy grail beside him and drank a mouthful of tea in satisfaction. It was time to enter the world in the cup. He had forgotten a very important thing. Lying in the bathtub, of course, he was naked. Entering the world in the cup like this would obviously mean entering with his but naked. Lioli, who was sitting cross-legged in meditation, sensed Chen Guang's appearance. She slowly opened her eyes and saw his rather indecent appearance. She cried out in surprise, "Are you trying to make this old lady's divine technique break my body?" Chen Guang covered his legs with his hands, feeling extremely embarrassed. An accident? It was completely an accident. You did it on purpose. Quickly find a knife and chop that broken thing of yours. Don't dirty this emperor's eyes. Lioli was also a pot calling the kettle black. She was currently naked as well. She could only rely on the fact that she could use her divine power to condense a white mist to protect her body. Thus, she shamelessly boasted to the similarly naked Chen Guang. In the distance, Lu Minghua also cried out repeatedly, "Old pervert! Peeping flower!" Chen Guang was not to be outdone. Lioli raised her hand to cover her eyes. It was as though she did not want to take another look at him. All right. I will ask you one last time. Have you really thought it through? Only 600,000? You don't want to add more money? She could not wait to send this streaking man away immediately. Chen Guang said indifferently, "Isn't it just training the soles of my feet? Beggar version it is then. Why add more money? Those who do not know would think that you are a kabaki. Put 3,000 into your card. Add the money to 98,000. Not adding, then not adding. Alright, don't regret it when the time comes. Don't blame this emperor for not reminding you." Chen Guang said resolutely, "I will definitely not regret it. Xiaomi and a rifle can only win a battle. Right now, it is still not the time for me to enjoy life. The user experience is fine. It will be fine as long as the effects are outstanding. Alright, let's go." A few minutes later, Chen Guang finally knew the answer to the extreme beggar version of the Heavenly Spirit Cup. He recalled a certain unbearable night. He still remembered that day when he first peeped at Teacher Zhuo's void refresh. Before he had time to digest this unimaginably beautiful scenery, he was lying in the Buick MPV of Vice Principal Han of the Jianhuan Academy, pondering over several major philosophies of life. Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where am I going? Damn it, it really is the armor-style cup world. This user experience is not just a little bit bad. This is simply the most miserable confinement in history, okay? F***CK this beggar version. I want a refund. A refund. Chapter 590. If he had known that the so-called world in a cup that was exchanged for 600,000 faith points would be like this, he wouldn't have wanted this beggar version even if he was beaten to death. The pure aura of a beggar from the beggar sex Elder 9 pouches definitely didn't contain preservatives. At this time, his whole body was tightly wrapped in a warm and enclosed space. When he opened his eyes, he could see the floating mist outside, which was the original water vapor in the bathroom. His head, hands, and feet couldn't move at all. It couldn't be said that there was no space at all. It was roughly the same as when he was trapped in the medieval armor last time, or maybe a little tighter. Thank God, this was the world in a cup, at least his breathing was smooth. At this time, his situation could be seen as being frozen. The most annoying thing was that although he was frozen, he was awake. The lower half of his body was soaked in warm water, and his nose could even smell the fragrance of tea. If he remembered correctly, there was indeed half a cup of tea left before he came in, so now it was half a tea bath. Well, this was really super restoration, high fidelity. Then the question is, how should I train the soles of my feet? This confused thought emerged in Chen Guang's mind. At this time, Lioli was also confused. Before the world in a cup was really brewed, she didn't know what she would become. Now that a wisp of her soul had merged with the heavenly Holy Grail, every time Chen Guang underwent the special training of the world in a cup, her own wisp of soul would also be brought into the world in a cup, becoming something related to the content of Qin Guang's special training, such as the mirror in the acting world last time. Then this time, when Qin Guang wanted to train the soles of his feet, what would she become? Lily was not very willing to imagine. From her point of view, although she knew that this matter was very deceptive and very sour, she really couldn't bear to refuse Qin Guang's request for special training. Holding the idea that she would deal with whatever came her way, Lily just let it be. Finally, when she really realized that she had become an electric foot tub, her whole mind was broken. That's right, under the circumstances where Qin Guang was completely trapped in the armored cup world, it just so happened that he wanted to train the soles of his feet today. The intelligent Holy Grail perfectly resolved the drawback of not being able to allow him to exercise vigorously and provided him with what could be said to be the strongest, most powerful, most tyrannical and most merciless footbath in history. Supreme Horse Slaughter Chicken, let you ascend to the heavens, let you fly, let your feet touch steel alls. The great glazed foot bathtub has inherited the glorious tradition of the heavenly Holy Grail. Half an alto, a mosaic computer, a super durable penknife, brass fireworks, and so on were possessed by the souls of the great martyrs. Her basin represented the long history and glorious tradition of the Heavenly Grail's special training. She was not fighting alone. She really was a basin. Sister Lioli, what's going on? You don't look very well. Is there any problem with his special training this time? Outside, Lu Ming was still in a state of shock as she asked. The pitiful pure flower had just suffered from mental pollution. Now that she recalled the naked appearance of Qin Guang when he first appeared, her heart was still beating wildly. It really was a deer. Lioli's face was pale. She didn't want to talk to Lu Ming at all. This matter was too sad, too sad. Weren't you a mirror last time? What are you this time? Lu Ming didn't know where Lioli's scar was at all. Not only did she fiercely expose the scar, she also madly sprinkled iodized salt on it. Lioli silently closed her eyes with tears in her eyes. She didn't want to speak. I am a basin. You damned Qin Guang, who asked you to only pay 600,000, who asked you to be so stingy, I'm going to fight it out with you. The glazed foot bathtub was suddenly activated. The terrifyingly large torque divine motor whistled and delivered the strongest impact in history. There were 7 massage steel balls on one foot, and a total of 14 massage steel balls rotated crazily, ruthlessly pressing down on the soles of Qin Guang's feet. Oh! Qin Guang also burst into tears. The scorching impact on the soles of his feet made him feel like a Buddha being born into the world, 2 Buddhas ascending to the heavens, 3 Buddhas and 4 Buddhas floating in the air like an immortal. He recalled his tragic experience when he was tempering the Qilin arm last time. He thought to himself, I won't be tortured like this until I master it, right? Is this the beggar's version of the armored world of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup training method? What a tailor-made one. What a simple beggar style. Money couldn't buy one. At this moment, Qin Guang was also regretting his past actions. He originally thought that half an alto was the lower limit of the cup. The armored world of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup had only occasionally appeared in his imagination once, and he didn't really take it seriously. But when he really fell into a deep predicament, he realized that he had indeed underestimated the shamelessness of the heavenly Holy Grail. After breaking through the bottom line, he was instantly submerged in water, and he was at a loss of what to do. The violent impact that kept surging from the soles of his feet was like boiling magma diving down, rapidly engulfing his entire mind. The screams were no longer enough to release the excitement in his heart, and the hot tears in his eyes could not wash away the emotions in his heart. He could only roll his eyes and foam at the mouth again and again, hoping that he would simply pass out. Unfortunately, the core function of the considerate world of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup was basically the same regardless of its size. Right now, he couldn't pass out. Because no matter how simplified the world of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup was, his mind was still protected. Although it was painful, he wouldn't collapse. Although it was boring, he wouldn't feel tired. Emotional blockade was one of the core functions of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup, and it was the basic guarantee that the Redeemer could survive the entire training process. Therefore, even though the supreme version of the World of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup, which had its own NPC simulation, was much better than the current armored World of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup in terms of area and customer experience, the difference in faith value between the two was not as exaggerated as the difference in area. The supreme version of the World of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup required 2 million faith value, the beggar version required 600,000 faith value, the poor version that was half an alto car required 8 to 900,000 faith value, and the ordinary version of the World of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup required about 1 million faith value. In fact, the faith value required for the core function of the World of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup was only about 600,000. The difference in the cost of faith value between different versions of the World of the Spirit Seeing Heaven Cup was mainly reflected in improving the user experience, such as expanding the area and providing more realistic visual, auditory, and tactile enjoyment. Chen Guang was reluctant to add even the slightest faith value, and in the end he ended up like this. The crystal coffin was all close-fitting armor of the beggar version. Lily, help. Can I add more money? This is so hard. After an unknown amount of time, Chen Guang only felt that his feet were broken and healed, and broken again, tossing and turning. He didn't know how long he had been tossing and turning. The terrifying foot tub finally stopped, giving him some time to breathe. Chen Guang took the opportunity to howl. Liuli's angry voice came, "Ba ba ba. Shut up you. If I could increase the price, I would have already taken the initiative to increase it for you. Do I still need you to tell me?" Chen Guang was puzzled. Why did this sound seem to come from below? Forget it, don't bother about those details. But this is really hard to bear. Give me a chance to turn over a new leaf. I want a refund. Alright, just accept your fate. There has never been a World of the Cup that could be upgraded with more money after it was created. I feel more sorry for myself, okay? As a noble and elegant golden finger, can't there be a correct way to open it? If I had a choice, I would also want to return you, this unlucky savior. Liuli raised his head and saw the soles of Chen Guang's feet in front of him. Then, his face was getting closer and closer. At the same time, the electronic notification of the heavenly Holy Grail finally sounded in Chen Guang's mind. Warm-up is over. About to officially start the Savior's feet training. Mission completion, 1/100,000. Washing the motor. I'm done for. Chen Guang slowly closed his eyes. It turned out that the painful torture that he almost forgot the time was just a warm-up. What's with this 1/100,000? He remembered the more than 20 million brass fireworks that he had played when he was practicing the Qilin arm. When he was finally freed from the World of the Cup, his eyes were lifeless and he stood in Cloud City. Even though he knew that Liuli and Lu Minghua were here, he didn't think of covering up at all. It was too painful, too painful. He was trapped in the armor, unable to move, and tortured by the foot tub. It might have been 20 years, 30 years, or maybe even 100 years. He was completely dumbfounded. He didn't know how many times his poor feet had been broken. Other people's foot tubs were called massages. His foot tub, in order to achieve the training effect of pulling up seedlings to help them grow, the method used was called grinding. He grinded them, grew them, and grinded them again. Chen Guang couldn't recall the terrible scene. Anyway, he didn't see it himself. Other than soreness, there was pain. In the end, he completely lost consciousness. It was as if he was born without these 2 feet, and his whole body was floating in the air. No matter what, he still made it through. Lu Minghua wasn't shy anymore. Sister Liuli, do you think he's broken down? Liuli also shook her head in puzzlement. It shouldn't be. The heavenly Holy Grail wouldn't make this kind of mistake. Then how do you explain his current state? If he really broke down, the 2 of us are really finished. I'll go take a look? Liuli stood up and rubbed her nose. She walked in front of Chen Guang, but she still saw his empty and lifeless eyes. Hey, wake up, little brat. Liuli stretched out her hand and waved it in front of him. Chen Guang gradually came back to his senses. There was finally some light in his empty eyes. Looking at Liuli, who was right in front of him, memories slowly floated up in his mind. After a long time, he finally squeezed out 2 words from his mouth. More money. Then he said, "In my next life, I must be a money earner." He suddenly pounced forward and hugged Lioli, crying miserably. "Just like the picture, you'll ruin your whole life. From now on, you'll only be a card bar person." Lioli originally wanted to push him away, but when she thought of the pitiful experience of this brat in the world in the cup, her heart softened. She sighed and patted his back. "Darling, be good. Don't cry, I'm here. My heart hurts so much." Qin Guang still didn't stop. His snot and tears sprinkled on Lioli's hair. Tragic, really tragic. It was really heartbreaking and tearful. Lu Minghua was also moved to the point that 2 drops of tears formed on her petals. Suddenly, Lioli felt that something was wrong. This scummy fire stick was desperately fiddling with her lower abdomen. Chapter 591. The 2 of them were now completely naked. The white mist on Laurie's body could only block their line of sight, but it was useless against the skin contact after the 2 of them hugged like this. The 2 of them were now hugging each other completely naked. This guy had long returned to normal. He was desperately rubbing against her chest, and the fire stick was also desperately rubbing against her like a devil. F***CKU. She sent him flying with a kick. Chen Guang floated in the air, his eyes curved into the shape of a crescent moon. As expected of an authentic goddess, the effect of her recovery was really great. Seeing that Qin Guang, who was floating in the air, had finally disappeared, Lu Minghua said faintly, "You've been taken advantage of. You've suffered a great loss." Laurie gritted her teeth. "There won't be a next time. I'm going to kill him." Come on. I have high hopes for you." Regardless of whether Laurie in the cup world was fuming with anger or not, after coming out of the cup, Chen Guang was still lying in the bathtub. He raised his feet slightly and looked at his skin that had become as white as jade. The muscles on the soles of his feet revealed a perfect and impeccable charm. He was very satisfied with the effects of the Holy Grail's special training. Although the process was terrible, the effects were worth it. As for next time, it was better to be a quick-witted one. He put his feet back into the bathtub. The unique brown color of the Chinese medicine in the medicinal liquid quickly faded, and his feet continuously felt a fiery pleasure. After more than 10 minutes, the bathtub full of medicinal liquid had completely lost its color. All the remaining medicinal liquid in the bathtub was quickly absorbed by his feet. The color of the medicinal liquid in the water could not be seen at all. It was like the color of a barrel of purified water. Heart-piercing light. After absorbing all the medicinal effects in an instant, Chen Guang's feet, which were the strongest in history, were completely formed. "All right, get up." He retracted his legs, pressed his hands on the edge of the bathtub, exerted force, and got up. With a crisp sound, his feet inexplicably penetrated the bottom of the porcelain bathtub, and the water in the bathtub flowed down. Chen Guang looked down and was completely confused. He didn't expect his feet to be so powerful. They were like diamond drills. The poor bathtub only got to enjoy it once before it went to heaven. But at this moment, the bathroom door was suddenly slammed open. Xen Qin, who was only wrapped in a towel, fell into the bathroom and landed on the floor. Then she raised her head in a daze to look at Chen Guang. She saw Chen Guang standing naked in the bathtub. What entered her eyes was the silver spear that was gradually raising its head. In fact, Chen Guang shouldn't be like this. He should be like those people in the movies who were overly frightened. But he was a man, so he understood. Even if he was at a disadvantage, if he were to be stared at by the opposite sex at such a close distance, this man would be rather shameless. However, the opposite sex just so happened to be such a flawless and exquisite lowly. To be honest, he was a little unable to take it. His sense of shame did not come first, but the excitement that he shouldn't have had came first. Once the excitement came, it was the standard procedure. Blood pumping, rushing to the 2nd of February, waiting for the dragon to raise its head. Above. Time seemed to stop at this moment. There was only the sound of the bathtub's water splashing in the bathroom. They didn't know how long it had been, but the two of them remained in this sluggish state. Xianxia's pupils grew larger and larger. When the dragon completely raised its head and roared, her mouth finally formed an O shape. "Ah!" she screamed. Chen Guang's reaction was slightly slower than her. After all, he had just crawled out of the world in the cup after being tortured. After Xianxia's scream, he was stunned for a moment. Then he also screamed, clamped his legs, bent his waist, and quickly covered his body with his hands. He finally realized that he had been taken advantage of. But what about the inexplicable happiness? Xianxia's hands scratched the smooth bathtub floor aimlessly. Then she wanted to get up. Unexpectedly, she lifted her leg too quickly. When she got up, she stepped on her own towel. She got up, but the towel was still on the floor. Just like that, the two clean and smooth people crossed 1,000 years of waiting. In this small bathroom, they turned into two statues that looked at each other. They were completely stiff. So sometimes, life's fate was so unpredictable. Although Chen Guang often couldn't help teasing Xianxia these 2 days, and Xianxia seemed to have awakened her nature and couldn't help but joke with Chen Guang. But if she really wanted to do something with Chen Guang, she didn't have the determination and courage, let alone the impulse. Besides, her master wouldn't agree. Today, she came back because she couldn't resist the temptation of the painting scroll. She wanted to sneak a peek and be satisfied. But she didn't expect that she would fall head first into it. When she fell in, Chen Guang just got up, and when he wanted to run away, he just happened to step on her own towel. This was a blessing that could only be achieved through 18 lifetimes of bad luck, right? Chen Guang looked at Xianxia in front of him blankly. His eyes scanned her from top to bottom. Her body, like her face, was the most benevolent and generous creation of God, which could give a mortal such a perfect lowly body. As she said, she was indeed a small steamed bun. But it didn't matter at all, because it made her look cuter. For other people, chest size was justice, but for her, flat chest was her home. Chen Guang's eyes gradually moved down from her upper body. "Oh, Mickey Mouse panties. Why are you still wearing this stupid thing?" "Forget it, fortunately, you are still wearing it." His eyes moved up again. "Hey, you silly cute girl, don't you know how to cover your shyness with your hands?" Gradually, his eyes returned to Xianxia's face. Chen Guang found that something was wrong. Her face was a bit strange, as if she had been brushed with a layer of vermilion paint. Her breathing gradually quickened. "Wait, why is there wind in this bathroom? It's strange. Damn, is her internal energy going to be out of control?" Thinking about it carefully, it was very likely. Chen Guang suddenly felt creeped out. Although she looked delicate, she was really at the peak of bone strength. If she completely lost control and slapped his face, how could he survive? Before he could think about it, Chen Guang shrank his neck and sat back in the bathtub. He shouted, "Oh, it's strange. My eyesight has become so bad recently. I can't even see my fingers in front of me. Xianxia, where are you? Help your director get the towel." He was talking nonsense, which was to remind Xianxia, the little lowly, that the person in front of her was her big chrysanthemum boss. Don't mess around. Finally, Xianxia's eyes gradually returned to normal, and her breathing slowly calmed down. She didn't scream anymore. She just silently bent down to grab the bath towel and wrapped it around her body again. She said to herself in her heart, "Xianxia, you have to calm down. You must calm down." Chen Guang wasn't responsible for this. She was the one who bumped into it. He was also a victim. That's right, the director is the victim. I was possessed and wanted to peek at his cultivation method. That's why I'm like this now. Little Xianxia, keep it up. It's okay. The sky hasn't fallen yet. I won't get pregnant just by looking at him, and I won't lose a piece of flesh just by being looked at by him. As a talented girl with dreams and dreams, I will always have to face difficulties one after another in order to overcome all obstacles in my path of martial arts. Today's matter is just a small stumbling block in my long journey to bring the Thousand Despair sect to greater heights. Xianxia nodded, clenched her fists, and cheered herself on. She said to herself in her heart, "Master, your disciple will not let you down. The Thousand Despair sect will definitely rise again. What's this small setback? It's not like I'm really serving him in bed." Then she finally noticed that the bathwater was almost completely leaking out of the bathtub. Did he change the bathwater? Why isn't it the color of the medicinal bath anymore? Did you change the water? She asked casually as she wrapped the towel around her body again. She had calmed down and was no longer as flustered. Chen Guang was still lying in the bathtub, not daring to get up. He said in a muffled voice, "Not yet. Hurry up and get out. I have to get up." What? He didn't change the water. Impossible. Xianxia cried out in shock again. Chen Guang felt a headache coming on. All right. Hurry up and get out. How did you train just now? Even if it's the painting manual, it's impossible. Are you a sponge or something? This is medicine, not red ink. You're not activated charcoal. Xianxia could not help but be shocked. This was completely different from her impression of a martial arts practitioner soaking in a medicinal bath. Left with no choice, Chen Guang stretched out one of his legs and slowly got up. He pointed at his crystal-clear foot and said, "Yes, it's just as you imagined. I'm a martial arts genius that only appears once in 1,000 years. In just a short while, I've already mastered the heaven-crippling leg. Bang! All the medicinal effects have been absorbed by my foot." As he spoke, he mischievously bent his toes. Heaven-crippling leg? Xianxia looked at his foot in confusion. She was shocked when she saw it. Oh my God! What kind of foot was that? His skin was crystal clear as if it was made of jade. Every inch of his muscles and veins looked perfect and flawless. God's foot. Bang! What kind of foot could make the eldest disciple of the Thousand Despair sect, who had reached the pinnacle of bone strength at such a young age, feel so ashamed that he wanted to cripple his own martial arts? Xianxia sucked in a breath of cold air and blinked furiously. She could not believe what she was seeing. A martial artist's talent in practicing martial arts was usually described by the word bone. After all, even if two children practiced the same skill, some could activate their inner strength in half a year, while others could not achieve anything even after practicing for their entire lives. Of course, there was a difference in bone structure. If one's bone structure had to be given a mark, 100 marks would be the full mark. Xianxia was prepared to give herself 90 marks. She gave the genius of the Wen family 99 marks. However, when the same thing happened to Chen Guang, it became extremely strange. When they first met, Chen Guang had used his unique pair of qilin arms to perform the invincible dart technique, which made Xianxia fall head over heels for him. This time, her outlook on life was changed by Chen Guang again. Chapter 592. Disregarding all the other parts of Chen Guang's body, if Xianxia were to evaluate Chen Guang's innate talent on his qilin arms, she would give him 200 points. The extra 100 points would allow him to be proud as much as he wanted. After all, only the bone structure of his arms was amazing. He would be thankful if he could get 60 points for the other parts. Anyway, with his current age and the level of his completely uncoordinated bone structure, it was impossible for him to cultivate inner strength to a great extent. But now, Chen Guang's so-called heavenly cripple feat that had come out of the bathtub had completely overturned Xianxia's previous understanding. That's right, although she didn't know how this guy cultivated the painting scroll, his bone structure of the heavenly cripple feat was off the charts. It would definitely surpass the full score and go straight to 200 points. Xianxia felt like she had seen a ghost. She had never seen anyone whose bone structure could change. Even if it could really be trained, how could his body change in different parts and stages? What kind of demonic method was this? Did you think I didn't understand science? It wasn't that her eyes were unparalleled in the world. It was just that Chen Guang's heavenly cripple feat were too perfect and flawless. As long as it was a normal martial artist, they would be blinded by the brilliance that only belonged to geniuses. It was Chen Guang's fault for scaring people to this extent. He had just cultivated the strongest heavenly cripple feat in history and was already showing off. Otherwise, when he had settled down a little and the skin on his feet had been slightly tanned, the changes in his bone structure wouldn't have been so glaring. How is it? Isn't it amazing? Chen Guang lay in the bathtub and shook his feet like he was showing off a treasure. He couldn't hide it from her anyway. Just as he was feeling pleased with himself, a pair of hands suddenly reached out from the bathtub and hugged onto his feet. What are you doing? Xianxia's face appeared again. She looked at Qin Guang's feet with an intoxicated expression. Perfect, too perfect. She actually moved her face closer to Qin Guang's feet. Get out of here. Old Master Guang was so frightened by her that he cried. She was such a good loli, but she had gone crazy just like that. After much effort, Chen Guang finally managed to put on his shorts. He walked out of the bathroom with his bare feet, feeling uneasy. He felt that Xianxia was sick, very sick. He had to take her to see a psychiatrist tomorrow. In fact, he had intended to wear slippers, but when he stepped down, he felt that his instep was a little itchy. He crossed his feet and wanted to rub them a little, but the slippers immediately broke into pieces. He had just mastered his ultimate skill and was not yet familiar with it. It was only natural for him to lose control a little. Ugh. Brother Chen Guang, what are you doing? Chen Guang had just stood in the living room and was about to drink some water to calm himself down when he heard Xianxia's scream behind him. Chen Guang turned around. This person was about to go crazy. Can't you just take a break? Can we not be so jumpy? Even if I don't have a heart attack, I'm scared to death by you. Impossible. Xianxia waved her hand fiercely and stood in front of Chen Guang angrily. Chen Guang shrank back. It seems that I have no choice but to use my ultimate skill now. You forced me to do this. He silently put on the headphones, which were super soundproof. That was how confident he was. However, Xianxia suddenly pushed him onto the sofa, making him sit down. Then, she rushed to the shoe rack and took out a pair of fur slippers for winter and forced them on Chen Guang. Don't take them off. If I find out that you hurt your feet like this again, I'll fight it out with you. Xianxia, who had already changed into her cute pajamas, said. She twisted her small waist and walked towards her room. Just as she was about to enter the door, she suddenly turned around fiercely and stared at Chen Guang's feet. There seemed to be some jealousy and pity in her eyes. What a good pair of feet, what a good pair of arms, sigh. Why did they grow on your body? What a waste of resources. Holding her chest, Xianxia completely forgot about the embarrassing incident of the two of them facing each other naked in the bathroom. She was only thinking about the good pair of feet and arms with 200 bones. Her heart ached. It was extremely painful. Chen Guang was indignant. What do you mean by it's a waste of resources on my body? Your dog eyes, no, Lolita eyes are looking down on me. However, Xianxia had already slammed the door shut. She threw a dirty look at him as if she didn't want to talk to him anymore. Chen Guang looked at the time. It was already 6 in the evening. Xianxia had to go out to buy takeout in a while, so he used this time to talk to little Tsong about the solo competition. Little Tsong, who had been eagerly waiting for the live stream to explode, almost jumped out of the car in excitement when he heard that he was finally willing to return to the scene and stream games. Even the sadness of being stuck on the overpass at Yanjing Zizimen had been diluted. Previously, with Chen Guang, the number of registered and active users of Bamboo live streaming had increased several times. Recently, because of Chen Guang's silence, these mobile users had gradually cooled down and returned to their respective platforms. This was the current situation of the live streaming industry. An excellent and powerful live streamer often represented hundreds of thousands or even millions of users. A live streamer at the level of Chen Guang represented millions of active users. The number of users was money. It was the traffic of the live streaming platform, and it was the foundation that the platform relied on to raise its value when it raised funds. Therefore, some of the top live streamers could easily have a contract worth tens of millions a year. Although the entire industry was not small, no one could deny the amazing ability of the top live streamers to make money. Little Tsong was more anxious than anyone else that Chen Guang, the pillar of Bamboo live streaming, was not broadcasting. However, The contract that Chen Guang signed with him was not a normal live streamer contract at all. Little Tsong had no restrictions on Chen Guang's live streaming, which meant that he could broadcast if he wanted to, and Little Tsong could not do anything if he did not want to. Moreover, because of the relationship between Chen Guang and Zhong Bai, and the fact that Chen Guang had appeared at the Yanjing Youth Hall's dinner some time ago, there were rumors in a small circle that his status was now directly connected to the Zenith Star. Little Tsong wanted him to resume broadcasting, but he did not dare to call to urge him. He only dared to ask Zhong Bai about Chen Guang's news. Zhong Bai was also very busy recently. In addition, Chen Guang was in Shun's special training camp. When Zhong Bai asked him, he could only say that he was in a very special place and could not say much about it to the outside world because of a confidentiality agreement. Just like that, poor Xiao Tsong had to wait until today. The longer he delayed the resumption of the broadcast, the lower the traffic on the entire platform would be. As a result, he had to create some Hello Goddess reality show to boost his popularity. Little Tsong was overjoyed when he heard Chen Guang's call. He was like rain after a long drought. Bro, let me tell you, this competition is good. Don't worry, bro. You don't have to worry about anything. I'll take care of it for you. I promise I'll make it a big project for you, with high popularity and high attention. Little Tsong thumped his chest loudly. Chen Guang was also happy that this bro was so understanding. Bro Tsong, you're awesome. Little Tsong chuckled. Of course. Oh right, what kind of situation do you want this competition to be? Are you going to participate from the beginning to the end? Although I don't play Dota much, I heard that you're invincible. If you also participate from the beginning to the end, there doesn't seem to be any suspense in this competition. As expected of one of the leaders of the esports circle, Little Tsong knew his stuff. Invisible flattery was the most lethal. Master Guang was caught off guard and fell for it directly. That's right. That's the logic. So, let's do it this way. The two of them muttered for a long time and quickly decided on the rules of the competition. Since it was a global competition, of course, they had to include the 4 regions of global Dota. Each region would have an average of 4 spots for the finals. It was completely open and free to register. Both professional and amateur players were allowed. Before the top 128 were decided, each region would implement a single elimination system. From the top 128 to the top 64, it would be a best-of-3 system. From the top 64 to the top 4, it would be a best-of-5 system. After the top 4 were decided, there was no need to continue competing to determine who was better. From all over the world, 16 top players who were selected would come to the 5 capitals together to participate in the final Throne Challenge. That's right, Throne. Naming was so domineering and unreasonable. This time, Chen Guang had learned his lesson. He didn't care about the consequences. He was going for the fame and shouting out his slogan. It didn't matter if they doubted him or flamed him on the internet. As long as he won in the end, it would be a well-deserved victory. All the doubts would naturally become firmer beliefs the moment the dust settled. It was better to be called arrogant and crazy. With controversy, there would be topics. With topics, there would be attention. With attention, there would be fame, and faith would follow. Other than these 16 selected players, there were also 4 spots for voting for the contestants. The global voting would allow many fans to vote for the professional players they wanted to participate in the competition. In the end, there were a total of 20 contestants for the Throne Challenge. The competition rules for the final stage were very simple and crude. It was the rules of the solo competition that Chen Guang had thought of previously. These 20 contestants would fight him one after another for a maximum of 3 days. Everyone would have 10 chances to challenge him. In these 10 solo matches, as long as any one of them won once, they would get 100,000 USD in cash. Of course, it didn't matter even if they lost all of them. As long as they could make it here and stand on the final stage, the 100,000 USD would be placed in front of them first. I'll give you the money. Take it well, then in order to win more money, you can challenge the throne. The so-called throne was Chen Guang himself. He wanted to use dazzling cash to throw all those esports superstars or young geniuses in front of him. Then he would shamelessly step forward. The old man would stand on the throne. The old man would pay for you to challenge me. Initially, when little Song heard Qin Guang's crazy and shameless rules of the solo competition, he and his companions were shocked. Isn't this a little too arrogant? Qin Guang said nonchalantly, what's there to be arrogant about? I'm the one paying for the prize money. Now that I'm the number one in the Celestial Stairway server, I have to be the best in the world. If anyone isn't convinced, then come and challenge me. Competition doesn't depend on words. Whoever can defeat me will be the best. Chapter 593. Xiaozong thought about it and agreed. You have too much money to burn, you're the one with the bigger face. Since you're the one organizing the competition, you can have whatever rules you want. You'll be the one paying the prize money anyway, right? A solo competition with a minimum prize of $100,000 per person was indeed unprecedented. Damn, luckily I didn't say I'd help him pay the prize money. Although I'm quite a prodigal myself, I'm a little ashamed to lose to him like this. Coupled with the hate-inducing competition name and format, Xiaozong was elated just thinking about it. Full marks for the publicity effect. Thank God for giving me such a shameless partner. I thought I was shameless enough, but compared to him, I, the internet celebrity, am really low-key and reserved. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't have come up with such a domineering name. Throne? I'm embarrassed for him. So, it's decided? Xiaozong finally asked. Chen Guang grunted heavily. It's decided. In a sense, Chen Guang was indeed very arrogant. He only prepared to take out $2 million as prize money. He didn't plan to lose a single match. For the faith, he was going all out. What are you doing? You're smiling so happily. What are you up to? Xianxia, who was about to leave after changing her clothes, looked up and saw Chen Guang's wretched smile. Chen Guang coughed. Nothing. Don't think too much. Xianxia nervously pinched her collar and walked to the door, sticking to the corner of the wall. Stop hiding. Xialong Bao, appraisal complete. Xianxia blushed again, but she wasn't angry. She opened the door and ran away. That night, Chen Guang started to register a SMUF account and started to practice his mid-landing skills. Although he had already proven his strength, every version was a god. Since the last time, the Dota Tower had been updated 3 or 4 times. The V Club had raised the file in their hands and used the method of rolling dice to randomly pick someone. Even someone as strong as Chen Guang had to get used to it. He hadn't played games for a long time, so he immersed himself in it. He planned to lose and sleep. When he came back to his senses, it was already morning. It was already past 8 the next morning. An undefeated life was as lonely as snow. At this time, Chen Guang finally experienced the happiness of a university student's summer vacation. Eat, drink, play, sleep, and be carefree. After eating the breakfast that Xianxia brought back downstairs, he lay comfortably on the bed and went to sleep. Not long after he fell asleep, Xiaozong had already mobilized his team overnight and started a huge promotional campaign online. Not only did Chen Guang provide the prize money for the competition, but he also gave Bamboo Live exclusive rights to the entire world. If Little Tsong didn't provide sufficient publicity, he would be going against his conscience. The strongest player in history, the king of all servers, standing proudly at the peak, waiting for you to battle. The Battle of the Kings, 2 million USD, I'm waiting for you. The Battle of the Pinnacle, 2 million USD, is waiting for you. $100,000 for entering the finals, $100,000 for every win. If they entered the finals, they would receive $100,000. If they won a match, they would receive another $100,000. A total prize pool of up to 22 million USD. Refreshing esports. Starting now. All-round Superman, the insolent declaration of a world-class internet celebrity who dares to fight me. Promotional posters with similar titles flew all over the place overnight. Be it domestic or international esports websites, they all fought to have this huge headline. In an instant, The news of the global Dota Solo Throne Challenge sponsored by Qin Guang and organized by Bamboo Culture sprouted in every corner of the esports circle. Not long after, the news of China's all-round Superman, Qin Guang, paying out of his own pocket to organize a solo challenge appeared on the homepage of various major websites. It might not be the headline, but it was at least the first screen in red. Some information portals categorized it under the gaming category, some placed it under a separate esports category, and some placed it under social information. The most outrageous one was that he actually placed it under legal news. No one knew what he was thinking. The spread of information was naturally spontaneous and contagious. Gradually, the major official information platforms could not resist the temptation of breaking news. They took it as an eye-catching report and put it on the table. Weibo, Tieba, and other forums were also gradually exploding. In the 7 to 8 hours that Qin Guang slept, not just the Dota circle, but the entire esports circle and even the ordinary netizens were blinded by the shocking news that he had created. Not only were the ordinary players excited, but even the professional players were shocked. The prize money was small, but the face was big. Although your celestial stairway score is so high that it makes people's hair stand on end, we have to admit that you are indeed extraordinarily strong after seeing your actual record of rushing your score. We indeed have no way to counterattack you on the celestial stairway, but you can't just not give us any face, can you? Even if you're really strong, how can we professional players survive in the circle if you say it so shamelessly? Can you still raise your head and be a human? You're too King arrogant. Esports players were young and frivolous, usually they wouldn't give in to anyone, not to mention Qin Guang's blatant act of slapping everyone's faces. Needless to say, the anger of the professional players and the young geniuses didn't need to be mentioned. To ordinary gamers, they were more concerned about the prize money that seemed to be at their fingertips. As long as they could make it to the finals, they would have $100,000, which was equivalent to 600,000 renminbi. It was enough to buy a down payment for a house in a second-tier city or a luxury car. It was obviously extremely difficult for an ordinary gamer to become a professional player. First, you had to have a team and a group of like-minded teammates. Only then would you be able to take the first step on the cruel path of esports. But even if you bravely tried, if you couldn't produce results and win the championship, you could only suffer for a few years under the disdain of your family and the lack of understanding from your friends and relatives. You wasted your youth for nothing. You could only remember the sadness you felt when you trained day and night, but no one knew how hard you worked. In the end, you would still be laughed at by others. Look, this is him. Addicted to games, idling around, not studying properly, not even working properly at his age. Now he's a useless person, isn't he? But Qin Guang's solo competition was different. It showed results quickly, he didn't need teammates, and the prize money was there. As long as you had the ability, as long as you had the dream, as long as you dared to try, as long as you could stand in the finals of his throne challenge, the $100,000 would be yours. This wasn't even the limit. What if I could really win one? $1 million? What if a genius like me was stronger than him? What if I could beat him to a pulp and win 10 rounds in a row? It was hard to say if I would walk on the path of esports, but who could resist the temptation of $1 million? That day at 2 p.m., the Throne Challenge preliminaries officially registered. There was no age limit, no identity limit, no region limit, no gender limit, no ladder limit. As long as you had a dream, as long as you had an account, you were waiting for the battle. An hour later, the number of people registering for the Chinese competition exceeded 100,000. The number of people registering for the American competition exceeded 50,000. The number of people registering for the European competition exceeded 100,000. The number of people registering for the Southeast Asian competition exceeded 20,000. The official server of the competition that Bamboo Culture had rushed out overnight crashed 3 times. But this was still not the end. It was just the beginning. Gradually, even some esports players from other games were passionately participating. They were busy registering their game accounts. They didn't care about anything else. I'll start training now. I'll start learning now. I'll register first. What if I'm an unawakened genius? What if I win? Nothing in the world is difficult. It's just a matter of luck. Quite a few of them actually had such thoughts. At 3 p.m., the number of people registering in the country exceeded 250,000. The total number of people registering worldwide reached 700,000. Overnight, the most shameless, and prodigal esports competition in history swept through every corner of the online world like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds. Xiao Chong had been waiting in the company. Seeing the number of registered users skyrocketing, he was so happy that his mouth almost split open. He was quick-witted. He tied the registration account of the competition's official website to the login account of Bamboo Live Streaming. Every additional person registering meant one additional registered user. Boss, the server can't hold on any longer. Get 2 more people from the technical department to come over. No matter what, try your best to protect the solo competition's official server. Get the specialized team to work harder and quickly create the second page for me. Boss, the special task force is already exhausted. Aren't they still dead? Then continue to suppress them. Wait until they're dead. Boss, the foreign live streaming station wants to discuss the authorization. Okay, let them talk to me directly. The price is negotiable, but my request, no, it's Brother Qinguang's request is that the money is negotiable, but the publicity resources must be able to keep up. Boss, Soy Milk, Zhan Qi, and Quan Ning want to discuss the authorization with us. What do you say? Xiao Chong hesitated for a few seconds. Tell them to scram. Only Bamboo Live Streaming is allowed in the country. Oh right, someone from Central TV Department 5 came over just now. They said that if Chen Guang wins, they want to produce and broadcast a documentary. They want the authorization and the rights to the documentary will belong to them. What? Little Tsong stood up from his chair. What's going on? Although the voices of ordinary people wanting to have esports broadcast on Central TV were getting louder and louder, the orthodox Central TV rarely gave in. Today, they actually took the initiative to declare that they wanted to make a documentary. This was not something that could be achieved with money. It was like a pie falling from the sky. The heavens had opened their eyes. Boss, do we agree? Of course we agree. How can we reject? That's Central TV we're talking about. When he was done with all the work, little Tsong sat back in his chair, feeling a little uneasy. He thought to himself, Brother Qinguang, you really have to win all the way this time. Whether or not I can get a free ride to Central TV will depend on this. He opened Weibo again and browsed Tieba. His eyebrows jumped. The scolding is really bad. Usually, he only used Weibo and did not browse Tieba. He especially did not pay attention to Dota Bar. But this time, as the organizer of the competition, and it was related to whether Bamboo Live Streaming could rise, Xiao Chong paid more attention to public opinion than usual. Looking at the natural explosive rhythm of Weibo and Tieba forums, Xiao Chong had goosebumps. He wondered if the news that he had hired someone to write was too arrogant, and inadvertently helped Brother Guang attract a lot of hatred. The ones who reacted the most fiercely were some professional players. These people trained hard for more than 10 hours every day. They staggered on the road of esports with tears and sweat all the way. It was fine if they were suppressed by others in the ladder, but they also acknowledged the strength of an all-rounder. But this time, you're really too arrogant. There has never been a lack of geniuses in this world. Why do you think you're the best in the world? For example, the well-known veteran player Burning Bro publicly said on his Weibo, esports is not fought with words. For professional players, it's not impossible, but top players train at least 8 hours a day. How much time do they have left to play solo and rush up points? There's no harm in being low-key. Another well-known player's temper was even more explosive. I quite admired him at first, but isn't he too arrogant? Come to the base and try? Do you believe that the main players of the first team can just draw lots and line up to kill them? Do you believe that they can beat you until you're satisfied? Esports Poison Milk Little Car was also watching the fun. Netizens usually only see the glorious side of professional players. They always boast about being a passerby king, But how many passerby kings have really achieved results? Without professional training, relying on a bit of talent, what else do you have besides being rich and willful? I, little car, have never admired anyone but you. Young man, I have high hopes for you. Fighting the world alone, go. Poison milk Huang Sudong. Poison milk color, I have high hopes for him. Go Brazil. Iesima, I like this player a lot. I want to be his teammate. Our mid is an idiot. There were countless similar heated discussions. In this scorching summer, when the International Invitational Tournament was in full swing, the most arrogant solo competition in history had ignited everyone's emotions. As public figures, even though the pro players and commentators weren't happy, they still held back their words. The netizens in Tieba, forums, and live stream comments were the real deal. Retard, farming points to climb the ladder, relying on actors the whole time. Is it that great to be rich? The strongest 3 ice in solo, no explanation needed. All-round superhuman eating sh*t. Babayev is the strongest. TI4's Tony is the strongest. The invincible Parker is the strongest. My miracle bro has something to say. Old driver Deng Di is the strongest. The #1 butcher in history. The #1 beauty in esports, Si Shanliang, is not convinced. Invincible in TI2. The world runner-up, Inyang Luo, is not convinced. My hero Luo is the best. I, Damon Pai, destroy 3 and fly with you. Shadow Demon's title, Ice Frog's recognition. All-round superhuman is nothing. I already. Forget it, you guys have a good chat, I'll go first. Anyway, I've bragged too much about the all-round superhuman. I've already signed up for a solo ranking of 6,000. I can't get up 10,000, it's all my teammates' fault. Give me a normal teammate, and I'm already at 16,000. 16,000. F*CKU. We destroyed one of our own tanks. Sorry I went to the wrong place, I'm going back to Titan Bar. Wind card, #1 in the world. The meat muffin is super delicious, whoever eats it will know. I welcome everyone to try the God of Creation brand beef cubes. Halal users should leave, I won't take the blame. All-round superhuman shameless, maintain the formation downstairs. The people above are all trash, it's also because my Demon King Feek doesn't play Dota, otherwise, it would be your business. All-round superhuman shameless, maintain the formation downstairs. Let the dog win. All-round superhuman shameless, maintain the formation downstairs. No matter what you think, I don't think he can win Wang Xiaoya, although he's already a blue cat now. All-round superhuman shameless, maintain the formation downstairs. Of course, not all of them were scolding Qinguang. After all, there were still some rational, brainless fans who felt that his actions were too cool. Who said that Chinese people had to be low-key and reserved. If he had the ability, he had to show it. Why low-key? In today's world where everyone liked to show off, wouldn't confident people be more handsome? Anyway, I'm brother all-rounder's brainless fan, I don't give in to anyone but him. All-round husband, F*CK me Dolly. It's not his fault that he's rich, he worked hard to earn it, and his all-round husband isn't a rich second generation. You guys hate the rich. When are you bringing me to eat spicy soup, hubby? According to reliable sources, brother all-rounder's family owns a hot pot chain, and he's a shareholder of Haidaleo. No wonder Haidaleo service is so good, I like Haidaleo. Xiao Tsong browsed Weibo, forums, and Tieba for an entire afternoon. He was also drunk. The husband image that he had painstakingly built up for so many years was completely destroyed by Chen Guang in just one day. Alright, in a sense, he was more handsome than him, and his image was more positive, but it wasn't easy for me, Xiao Tsong, okay? At 5 in the afternoon, Chen Guang finally called Xiao Kong Chen Guang, who was still lying on the bed, asked in a daze, Brother Tsong, how's the situation now? How many people do you think will sign up for the competition the day after tomorrow? Xiao Tsong silently looked at the data sheet, almost speechless. Although the growth of the number of people was starting to decline, when the registration deadline at noon the day after tomorrow, The total number of people signing up would definitely exceed 1 million. It was almost catching up to the total number of people online in the global Dota. He didn't expect things to turn out this way. There might be many reasons why the number of people signing up was so explosive. Chen Guang himself was a rather famous internet celebrity, and the overly arrogant competition rules and high prize money brought a lot of attention to the competition. The registration method that didn't have any threshold made the registration become a carnival, a trendy trend. There were millions of online players in Dota, but the actual number of players was far more than that. Other than that, there were also many players from other games who downloaded the app and signed up. Anyway, there was no registration fee, and they didn't lose anything even if they lost, so they just treated it as fun. In a sense, Chen Guang was really fighting against the whole world alone this time. 1 million. Xiao Song said heavily. Chen Guang pouted. Only 1 million, it doesn't seem very convincing? Can the faith points explode? What? Xiao Song was confused. Chen Guang coughed twice. Nothing. Brother Guang, let me tell you, are you still not satisfied? The way things turned out this time really can't be replicated. There are many coincidences in it. After all, you're already very famous, the prize money is so high, and your attitude is so arrogant. You yourself have a record of 10 million on Dota, and I have some publicity strategies too. Anyway, it's just that big scale. Without any of these factors, things wouldn't have turned out this way. Do you really think that 1 million people is a small number? Alright, it's not a small number, thank you for your hard work. Quickly go online and take a look, the pace now is a little fierce, don't scold me later. If you have any complaints about the publicity strategy, let me know, I'll change it immediately. My publicity is a little. Xiao Song actually wasn't very confident. When he first decided on the publicity strategy, he didn't think much about it, and just followed his previous habits and set the tone based on how to hype things up. In the end, now that the public opinion had exploded, he was quite worried that it would make Chen Guang unhappy, so he said it in advance to say it out first, so that he wouldn't have to hide the knot in his heart. After waiting anxiously for about an hour, Chen Guang finally called. Xiao Song looked at the name on the caller ID, took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and opened them again. Forget it, an ugly daughter-in-law has to meet her parents-in-law. If it really made him unhappy, at most he would go to the 5 capitals to apologize. Anyway, it's not like he hadn't been there before. How is it? Xiao Song asked nervously when the call went through. What? Chen Guang's loud voice came through. Xiao Song's heart instantly hung in midair. It's over. He's really unhappy. Xiao Song was even more nervous, pretending to be stupid. I thought you were bragging too much, what is this? Don't be so cowardly. Isn't it enough? Xiao Song stared. It's actually still not enough. He thought he had already seen through Chen Guang, but now he realized that he really couldn't use common sense to judge this godly person. Wait for a while, I will personally write a draft for you. Take it and send it, and just use my tone to say it. Don't panic, you won't lose. An hour later, Xiao Song looked at the draft in front of him with the title, Hello everyone, I'm Chen Guang, I'm the best, if you're not convinced, come and fight me, and was completely dumbfounded. It was a declaration of war of 1,000 words, and every line and every word was filled with a sense of supremacy. It was clearly telling everyone that the old man was just that arrogant, that he was just that arrogant, that if they weren't convinced, then come and participate in the competition, come and fight me. Boss, are we really going to send this out? We'll get beaten up, right? Xiao Song gritted his teeth. Send it. Why not? It's a draft written by Brother Guang himself, send it out. At this moment, many of the top professional players participating in the International Invitational Tournament couldn't sit still anymore. They had originally planned to have a good rest after the competition, but they were actually provoked like this. In the words of Gatbai, who was publicly recognized as one of the top 5 mid laners in the world, I can't take it anymore. Chen Guang was also very sinister. After letting Xiao Song send out the draft, he didn't care about what was going on outside and only focused on exploring the new version. He locked himself in his room, like a real gaming geek, and played solo again and again. That night, he received a very strange overseas call. It was actually from his father. Chapter 594. Son, what have you been up to recently? Just now when we were shopping as a family, we saw two foreigners sitting on chairs in the park, cursing and swearing your name. At that time, I thought I had heard wrongly, but when I got closer, I realized that the two of them were really stabbing their iPads with all their might. There was your photo on it, and they were itching to stab your face. What's going on? It turned out that Qin Guang had caused too much of a ruckus this time. Translated versions of his articles had appeared overseas, and his international friends could not stand it anymore. Qin Guang was amused. Don't worry, it's just a small matter. It will die down in a few days. By the way, Dad, which park are you at? Don't even think about finding out where we are. School is about to start soon, so study hard. If you fail again next semester, I'll beat you to death. By the way, you have a lot of makeup exams to take, right? Fail one subject, men's singles once, fail 2 subjects, mixed doubles, fail 3 subjects, mixed fights of both genders, young and old. Do as you see fit. Chen Guoli hung up the phone with a bang. Chen Guang silently held his phone, his expression dull. What nonsense! The owner of the Holy Grail. The prophet right. The super internet celebrity. The chief instructor of Shund. The chief Daoist of Guangding. I am a man with a net worth of 200 million, a genius who is about to embark on the path of martial arts, Master Guang. You actually won't let me fail? Dad, aren't you being a little unreasonable? Do you know what kind of burden your son, I, is carrying right now? So what if I fail? Won't it be fine as long as I have money? If you have the ability, come and hit me for real? Just as he was thinking about this, his phone rang again. He looked down and saw that it was a text from his mother. Son, as your mother, I know that you are capable now and have a promising future. But you can't relax. One is never too old to learn. Everything else is external. Knowledge is the foundation. If you master mathematics, physics, and chemistry, you won't have to be afraid to travel the world. As a mother, I don't have high expectations. You have to at least get a graduation certificate, or you will regret it in the future. Think about how you will explain it to your own children in the future. Her father had been studying for decades, but he didn't even have a university diploma. I don't care if you participate in this competition or not. I won't ask about your relationship with Jin Shiyue. As your mother, I only have one request, and that is to graduate well. Otherwise, I'll really hit you. This was his biological mother. Chen Guang silently held his phone. He was speechless. What are you guys afraid of? Graduation isn't that difficult. Although it was almost time for the makeup exam and I hadn't read for even a minute, with the old man's experience, it wasn't a problem at all. Otherwise, it would be better to ask if he could buy it if he failed. He probably wouldn't be beaten, right? Forget it, don't think about it anymore, or I'll get goosebumps all over my body. Then he ate dinner, took a shower, and casually strolled around the internet. He looked at the reactions on the internet, looked at the game's update notes, and took a look at the live streams of other top mid-laners. In between, he received a few phone calls. Some were from Sun Xiaoxuan, some were from Zhuo Jingxi. The 3 grandsons in the dorm were all more excited than the other. They couldn't wait to fly to his side right now and witness the birth of a miracle with him. Jiang Yage also called. She actually asked Chen Guang if she and Jin Shiyue needed to add fuel to the fire. Chen Guang hurriedly said that it was okay. If Jiang Yage hadn't mentioned it, he would have forgotten that he was still Jin Shiyue's boyfriend to the public. It didn't matter what happened outside, but if it reached old Master Jin's ears and he, the so-called prince consort, acted so arrogantly in public, it would tarnish the Jin family's reputation. It was fine if he did it quietly, but if old Master Jin jumped out to beat him up, it would be a big joke. There was another person who he didn't expect to call. It was Lu Fei, who he hadn't seen for a long time and missed. Chief Lu, who was rumored to lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year, seemed to have just finished something important. As a League of Legends player, she also paid attention to the esports circle. It was said that she had once planned to form a female team, but because she couldn't find a satisfactory team member, the matter was left unsettled. Hey, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you suddenly made such big news? Global Dota Solo Throne Challenge? It's so lively, and you didn't even report it to your sister Lu Fei? You heartless bastard. Did you find a new sweetheart, Jin Shiriyue, and forget about me, the good sister who gave you everything to eat up? As soon as the phone was connected, Sister Lu Fei, a veteran leather clothing enthusiast, vividly displayed her temperament of not stopping until she shocked people to death. Chen Guang felt wronged. He wanted to look for her yesterday, but Xan Qin delayed him. Today, she came to his door, and he couldn't explain himself. That, he was worried that he might have forgotten about Lu Fei, but now he had become the heartless person. It was so embarrassing. Sorry, don't stutter. I know there's nothing going on between you and Jin Shiriyue. I'm just joking with you. Besides, so what if there's something going on? First come, first served. I don't want any status, I just want to go crazy with you while I'm young, right? Let me be the little one. I'll be the big one. Lu Fei seemed to have sensed Chen Guang's awkwardness and took the initiative to help him resolve it. Chen Guang finally recovered. Between the two of us, it seems like we've only eaten less than half. There's still a distance of 30 centimeters from the standard of eating and leaving. You have 30 centimeters? Wrap it around your waist? Oh, Sister Lu Fei, you know what's going on. I have high hopes for you. Stop joking with me. Let me ask you, what's with the solo competition? Is it really the competition that was written in the news? Why are you so thick-skinned? Chen Guang didn't agree. What do you mean thick-skinned? I'm speaking the truth. I'm one of the top almighties in the entire server. If I say I'm invincible, then I'm invincible. I have this diamond, why can't I do this? Alright, you call the shots if you're good. You're the boss if you're thick-skinned. But why are you only doing Dota? There are so many people playing League of Legends now, why don't you do League of Legends? You're letting me down? I'm afraid we'll fight on the spot. Besides, I don't know how to play League of Legends. It's fine if we don't have enough time this time. Anyway, if you continue to be so biased in the next esports competition, don't blame me for not letting you take advantage of me in the future. Lu Fei teased him for a while. She sounded like she was joking. Of course, I promise to take you flying in the future. After hanging up the phone, Chen Guang pressed the Q button. He really missed those crazy days in Xiangjiang with Lu Fei. It was just that after returning from Xiangjiang, although they had met up a few times, their lives and social circles didn't seem to have much interaction. She had been busy recently, and he wasn't free either. It was always difficult to find a suitable reason and opportunity to get together. Even Chen Guang himself felt that the relationship between the two of them would gradually drift apart over time. After all, he was a man. He always felt that Lu Fei allowed him to take advantage of her purely because he was taking advantage of her. Lu Fei would definitely be the one at a disadvantage. With a guilty conscience, he would worry about gains and losses, and he would feel that he owed others. Now, Lu Fei's call could be considered to have completely reassured him. As long as Lu Fei didn't mind, of course, he wouldn't have any obstacles. No matter how rich she was, just based on her hot body and straightforward personality, who wouldn't want to be friends with her? And it was a friend with benefits. Such a good friend couldn't be found even with a lantern, okay? Otherwise, when he returned, would he really go to the more comprehensive esports world in the One-Line Sky realm? It was just like the Language Master Cup. On the basis of English, it directly expanded the entire language system. For the esports world at the level of One-Line Sky, it would have to include LOL, Dota, StarCraft, Warcraft, Overwatch, Hearthstone, and so on. These were all related to esports, right? He felt that the most difficult of them must be Hearthstone. After all, the first one on his right hand belonged to the higher level of God-slapping dog, which involved the high-end category of luck. Forget it, don't think about those useless things. Hurry up and practice hard. Don't screw up in the gutter. Start now. Xianxia was actually quite distressed by the sad fact that her big boss had become a gaming geek. She was even more distressed that Chen Guang actually didn't practice the painting scroll anymore. How could she endure this? He had clearly suffered a great loss to witness the birth of this fellow's 200 bone god's leg breakers with his own eyes. Just when his longing for the painting scroll was at its peak, this fellow actually stopped practicing it. He stopped practicing without any hesitation. He even put the medicinal ingredients that Long Dingtian gave him into a pile and didn't care about it at all. Xianxia was very anxious. Aren't you a genius? Aren't you in a hurry to master the godly technique so that you can help your One? How can you be lazy? And you're so thorough. You should give me a chance to secretly learn it. No, I must have overlooked something. Xianxia patted her head and suddenly realized something. That's right, he must have discovered that I wanted to secretly learn it, but he was afraid of hurting my reputation, so he didn't expose me. That must be it. That's right, how can someone's bones improve so much just by lying in the bathtub for a few hours and absorbing the medicine? The real magical thing is definitely not him, but the Wen family's painting scroll. He must have been practicing it normally, but he did it secretly behind my back. Although she felt very embarrassed and ashamed, Xianxia made a bold decision. That's right, since you secretly practiced it behind my back, I will secretly learn it behind your back. I owe you. At most, I will give myself to you after I master it. As long as I can break through the peak of bone strength as soon as possible and become the youngest skin strength expert in the history of the Thousand Despair sect, this price will be worth it. At most, I will just take it as being pricked by a nail. Although this nail is a little big. Therefore, in the next few days, Chen Guang discovered something that made his balls ache. Xianxia suddenly became strange. While he was playing games happily, a cold wind suddenly blew past. When he turned his head, he saw Xianxia hiding behind the sofa, staring at his feet like a hungry wolf peeping at its prey. Her eyes were glowing with a green light, and it was exceptionally scary. What are you doing? Chen Guang felt goosebumps as she stared at him. However, Xianxia screamed and immediately ran to her bedroom like a frightened rabbit. After a while, he finally won a game with great difficulty with one player and 3 teammates who were scolding each other. Chen Guang stretched his waist and felt a chill on his back again. He turned his head and saw that she was here again. Just when he wanted to say something to her, she would always look at him with pitiful eyes. It really made his heart soften so much that he didn't have the heart to say anything. 3 days later, the Global Dota Solo Throne Challenge qualifier officially began. Xiao Tsong's continuous improvement of the competition's official server withstood the pressure and rationally distributed the millions of contestants around the world. Referring to the previous CDEC competition mode, they were selected by machine and invited to fight in pairs. The 3 grandchildren, by Nyangzi, Lin Jingwei, and Xiong quickly fell in the 3rd or 4th round. On the other hand, Wen, who took time out of her busy schedule to participate in the qualifier, fought her way into the top 16 of the Wuxia region and was eliminated by a professional player in the top 16. Finally, after 3 days of intense qualifiers, 2 professional players and 2 amateur geniuses stood on the stage of the top 4 of the Wuxia region. It had to be said that since ancient times, there were actually 2 non-professional geniuses in the top 4 of the country, which was indeed beyond Chen Guang's expectations. This wasn't a small competition. Almost all the top players in the country participated. Among the 2 professional players, one had even just returned from the final stage of the International Invitational Tournament and was feeling very good. To be able to fight their way out in such a cruel and intense competition, there was no need to doubt their strength. As for the other professional players, no matter whether they were convinced verbally or not, since they had fallen on the way to the final stage, they had to be convinced no matter how unconvinced they were. Of course, it wasn't like they had no chance at all. Chen Guang and Little Tsong had also left a voting channel for them, a total of 4 spots. Voting was also Chen Guang's clever move to further increase the participation of all the players and enthusiasts. With voting, there would be controversy, and naturally, there would be popularity. Don't you think you're the best in your heart? If your favorite contestant was eliminated because of one reason or another, either because he wasn't in good condition, or because he couldn't sign up for the competition in time, or because he ate something bad during the competition, any reason is fine. You can send him in and fight again. Come and vote. Send in the players you think are the best and let them stand in front of the old man. Have a good fight until you're convinced. In order to ensure the fairness of the voting and prevent vote rigging, there was a threshold for voting for the competition that didn't have a threshold for registration. One had to register with the V Club and have at least 100 competition records to ensure the fairness and openness of the voting to the greatest extent. Due to the time difference across the world, the Wuxia region was the first to end, and the other 3 regions also ended one after another. 5 days later, the final list of 20 players was confirmed. They would immediately set off for the 5 capitals of Wuxia to participate in the first global Dota Solo Throne Challenge, which had been brewing for a few days and had an influence all over the world. The potential prize money was as high as $22 million, and they would launch the fiercest battle against the self-proclaimed king of the competition, Chen Guang himself. The competition venue was set at the Dachuan Province Stadium. Even before the qualifiers began, preparations for the venue had already begun. At this time, the public opinion had gradually reached its peak. Any player who had the means, or was a die-hard fan of Qin Guang, or a die-hard hater of Qin Guang, such as the members of the Anti-Light Alliance, was already ready and waiting for the competition to begin. Even Wen almost couldn't help but join in the fun, but she couldn't make it in the end. The Wen family couldn't do without her now. On the night before the finals, Chen Guang, who was happily eating watermelon and watching television at home, welcomed 2 uninvited guests, Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage. According to Jiang Yage's original words, how can there not be an opening performance for such a big event? Look at the small celebrities that Bamboo Company invited. Even if you don't think it's cheap, I feel that it's not worth it for Sister Shirui. So? Chen Guang asked anxiously into the phone. Jiang Yage chuckled. So, wait for the surprise tomorrow afternoon. Your left and right hand are giving you a free platform. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Didn't you see that the opening ceremony introduction online has changed again? We informed Bamboo Company at the last minute and asked them to change it. He silently looked at the huge red title on the computer screen. Opening gift for the Throne Challenge. Mystery guest descending from the sky. Mystery guest, your face is full of mystery. In addition, he didn't know why, ever since he was embarrassed by Jiang Yage in the toilet, although he was fascinated by her at that time, whenever he thought of her now, he would have a lingering headache. Why was this happening? He couldn't understand it no matter how he thought about it. He also wanted to do something with Jiang Yage, but he heard that her grandfather was quite a bluff and was even harder to deal with than old man Jean. If he made a mistake, he might be risked his life by others. Of course, what Chen Guang was most afraid of was that the paparazzi would take some shameful photos. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to face others in the future, and Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage wouldn't be able to raise their heads. This feeling was like walking on a tightrope without any protection. Below him was a steep cliff. It was twice as thrilling and thrilling. Chapter 595. Are you going to the competition today? Chen Guang asked Xan Qin when they were about to leave the house early in the morning. I'm not going. What's so interesting about the game? If you have the time, why don't you practice for a couple of days? You're such a slacker. Do you think you're worthy of Miss Wen who gave you the painting scroll? Xan Qin looked at Chen Guang as if she expected better from him, but in fact, she was unhappy that she couldn't learn the divine skills secretly. Chen Guang, on the other hand, didn't want to talk to someone who didn't know anything. What do you know? The old man is a genius. What is a genius? He can become stronger without training. That's a genius. Xan Qin was infuriated by his naughty look. She really couldn't understand why this guy's legs inexplicably became so powerful. What was wrong with it? What was the reason? In the past few days, she had quietly told her master about this matter. Her master also said that she had never heard of such a ridiculous thing. In turn, she told her not to be overly suspicious all day long. Since she was now the deputy director of the general department, she should work hard and cooperate with the director's work. Times were different now. The people in power in China were more determined than they had imagined. Technology was advancing with each passing day, and the world was bound to change sooner or later. As a declining sect, the Thousand Despairs sect had to take this opportunity to cooperate with the people in power as soon as possible. Only by occupying a position of power would they be able to rise in this turbulent era. At the very least, they could not afford to be left behind. Xianxia knew that her master was right. However, Chen Guang kept walking barefooted in front of her these days. She couldn't control the sneaky thoughts in her mind. How infuriating! Why did he do this? Should I ask him directly? Xianxia thought so, and she really did it. She glared at Chen Guang fiercely. Suddenly, she said without thinking, "Tell me your secret. Tell me, is your secret to becoming stronger because of your bald head?" Chen Guang was shocked. In a sense, that doesn't seem to be wrong. His hair had been swallowed by the deer flower, and then some inexplicable changes had happened to the deer flower's body. It just so happened to fill the gap left by the disappearance of the deity statue, allowing him to preserve his hard-earned faith points. With faith points, he could engage in special training, allowing him to become stronger. After a series of flawless, high-end inferences, even he himself came to a rather amusing conclusion. That's right, I became bald, so I became stronger. Really? Xianxia actually believed it. Chen Guang was frightened. What a pleasing little lowly. If she really believed his nonsense, she would run off to shave her head and become a little nun. His sin would be too heavy. No. No such thing. I'm just spouting nonsense. Chen Guang waved his hand and shouted, "I don't believe it." Xianxia looked at Chen Guang suspiciously and rubbed her hair with her fingers. She seemed to be very tempted. This time, Chen Guang was really scared. "God of lowly, I'm sorry. Don't joke with me. I'm really scared." The veins on his forehead were bulging because of Xianxia's eager look at this time. The image of the little lowly also becoming bald appeared in his mind, and he felt creeped out. On second thought, the little lowly had been following behind him these days. She ran up and down to buy breakfast and take takeout. Previously, she helped to open the live broadcast and edit the video. She really did hard work without any credit. He always took advantage of her like this. If he didn't give any benefits in return, he wouldn't be able to live with his reputation. However, if he let her accept the commissioned training of the world within a cup like Wang Lin, thinking of the terrible mortality rate, he was very reluctant to put her in danger. For a moment, he was really in a dilemma. "I'm not joking with you. My situation is special, but it has nothing to do with my hair. Think about it with your little brain. How could shaving your head make you stronger? Didn't that monk rule the world long ago?" Chen Guang tried to communicate with Xianxia. Unexpectedly, the little lowly's big eyes widened. "Even now, you still want to lie to me? I've been observing your hair for the past few days. Other people's bald heads are shaved. Even monks have to shave their heads once in a while. But yours isn't. I saw with my own eyes that your hair was inexplicably gone that day. At that time, I thought it was strange. Now that you've been bald for so many days, you haven't grown a single hair stubble. There must be something fishy about it." She seemed to be arguing with Chen Guang, but it was more like she was trying to convince herself. Chen Guang found that he couldn't win against her in an argument. "No, I just instantly lost my hair because I was worried about the country and the people. Didn't you see that those great people's hairlines are quite high? It's just a coincidence. It's a complete coincidence. I said that if you become bald, you will become stronger. That's because I'm paying tribute to Saitama-sensei. I beg you, save your energy. At worst, when the time is right in the future, I'll think of a way to teach you something. Forget it. You listen to me. The first head of the Guangdong General Directorate's Order No. 1 is hereby issued. Deputy Director Xianxia must protect her beautiful hair." Then he quickly opened the door and ran away. He really couldn't stand the little lowly's pitiful look. He couldn't teach her the painting scroll, let alone the heavenly Holy Grail. Although the old man was attracted by her little eyes, He really couldn't help her at the moment. He quickly drove out of the door in his Volkswagen. Halfway there, he stopped by the side of the road to pick up Wu Tong's call. Wu Tong had originally wanted to follow him into the battle against the Poison Clan, the Dark Clan, and even the entire Internal forces. However, she was sternly rejected by Qin Guang. On the other side, Wu Shan also seemed to know some inside information. After some maneuvering, he simply made Wu Tong stay in Beijing and let her be the director of a district branch in Beijing. Although Wu Tong was young, she had risen to the position of deputy director like a rocket when she was in the Wenxing town branch. Then, she graduated from the Shun special training camp with a special assessment. This was not an assessment result that could be obtained through the back door. There were as many as hundreds of students in each batch, and each of them was an elite and talented person. However, there were only 10 special assessment results. After ordinary graduates graduated, they would normally be promoted by one level. After passing the special assessment, they would be directly promoted by 2 levels. Wu Tong had made a lot of contributions before, and he was brave enough to fight. He also had Wu Shan to protect him. Coupled with his achievements as a special class student of the Shun special training camp, it was reasonable for him to take over the position of the retired old cadre and become the director of the 1st district branch in Beijing. Perhaps some people would not be convinced, but that was a problem for Wu Tong to deal with and solve by herself. The purpose of Wu Shan's actions was also very simple. He wanted to put Wu Tong in an important position. He wanted her to be pinned on the fire and be anxious all day long. He did not give her free time, nor did he let her think about anything. At least, under the current chaotic situation, Wu Tong had to be completely removed from this matter. Of course, as a person who might ascend to the top in the future, Wu Shan could fully understand the determination of many old men as long as he deliberately asked around. He also firmly believed that the process might be a little difficult, or there might be a lot of twists and turns. It was even possible that some important people might lose their lives in this matter. However, the decision of the higher-ups had been made. This matter must be carried out. Even if they had to pay a price, they must laugh in the end. Wu Shan completely agreed with the decision of the higher-ups. It was time to let those arrogant people who had no regard for the law restrain themselves. As the head of Dechuan Province's political and legal organization, he was also mentally prepared to shed blood for this matter. However, it was his own daughter. There was really no need to let her follow Qin Guang directly into the innermost part of the entire maelstrom. Wu Shan faintly regretted it. He had originally thought that Qin Guang was just an ordinary student. Even if something embarrassing really happened between his willful daughter and her so-called younger brother, he had originally planned to let it go. After all, Wu Shan owed Wu Tong a lot in the first half of his life. Not long ago, he had even given up on her in his heart again, just like the choice he made when he lost his wife and child many years ago. Later, it was also Qin Guang who risked his life to save Wu Tong. Only then did Wu Tong escape danger and falsely claim the merit. However, when he suddenly looked back, this young man was already standing in the center of the storm. In this kind of battle, whether it was Wu Shan or Wu Tong, they could not play any decisive role. Therefore, Wu Shan's previous conviction was shaken. At least before the dust settled, he hoped that Wu Tong would stay as far away from Qin Guang as possible. How about I resign? I really want to come back to Wu Jing. I always feel that my dad did it on purpose. He suddenly put me in this position, and I'm so busy all day that I don't even have time to breathe. Wu Tong's voice sounded very tired on the phone. Qin Guang hurriedly persuaded her, "Don't, sis. Just stay here and don't worry. I already told you that the sky won't fall here. It's really not as complicated as you think. As long as I master the 18 subduing dragon palms, all those inner force experts, this school, and that school are all trash. How can it be as mysterious as that stupid Tsing Yongtai brags? One slap and everything will be settled. When did you learn the 18 subduing dragon palms again? You keep bragging. You're always up to no good. This is really bragging, but I also think that you really shouldn't come back. This is such a good opportunity, I must do it well. I can't be the second generation of a government official, and I'm not a great third generation either. But I have an elder sister who is a bureau chief, and it's such a big branch office. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. Why? Because I have to walk sideways like a crab. Bah, screw you. Fine, then I'll stay in this lousy district branch for now. I'll have to be transferred back sooner or later. That's good. I'll wait for you to be transferred back to cover for me to commit crimes. I'll be the first to sweep your yellow. I'll catch you once, and I'll catch you again. After joking around with Wu Tong for a long time, he finally managed to get her to settle down completely. He did not tell her that he had now become the director of the Special Affairs Bureau's Directorate General of Character Order, nor would he tell her that he was becoming stronger at the speed of light, and that he might one day step into the circle of martial artists to stir up trouble. It was better to let her know less so that she wouldn't have to worry needlessly. Chen Guang still didn't want Wu Tong to come back. At least for now, he and Wu Shan had the same idea. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.